Hi, well, good afternoon, everyone, all two of you, and thank you for coming out, and the rest of you here. So we're going to go ahead and bring this special meeting of the Governing Board to order. But before we begin, let's just take a moment of silence. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mrs. Sagata-Jones, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam President, not at this time.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Let's see, we don't have any call of the public, so we'll move right to our consent agenda. And with that, are there any items that board members would like pulled? Hearing none, I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And we do not have any reports and information items at this time, so we are at our action items. 6A is Delegate Assembly Representative.
Yes, good evening, Madam President, members of the board. It is recommended the governing board select from its membership a representative and alternate to serve as a delegate at the Arizona School Boards Association Delegate Assembly on September 8th, 2018.
All right, so I believe last year we had Mrs. Bartels and Ms. Pimentel went. So is there anyone at this time that would like to volunteer to be a representative?
I volunteer if nobody else wants to do it.
And I can go this year too.
Okay, do you want to be the main one and then you can be the backup, Ms. Bartels?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You're it.
Okay, so make a motion that Ms. Smith is the delegate and I, as Brenda Bartels, am the alternative.
Okay.
Alternate.
Okay, and where's Ms. Smith? How do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Aldana?
Aye.
And Mrs. Bartels?
Aye.
Mrs. Pimentel?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so the motion passes. All right, we are at 6B, Political Agenda Direction.
Yes, Madam President, it is recommended the governing board provide its delegate with direction in voting at the Arizona School Board Association Delegate Assembly on September 8, 2018.
All right, so we had mailed these out a little earlier so that you'd have a chance to go through them, and so that we wouldn't spend a whole lot of time. So is there any discussion about some items that you would like changed, or Ms. Smith?
I have to find this stuff. Well, on the agenda, I think it's page 28, but I just want to have some discussion on this, because if you go in there,
Which one?
well, I know, like in the agenda, I'm like, so I don't know how you're going to figure this one out. It's under the section, improve outcomes for all students.
Okay. So the top says draft 2019 political agenda.
Okay.
Okay, and then, so, I mean, I would say like the bottom three, if we could just like hear people's opinions about them. I don't know that we're here to change, but it's what we're going to vote on when you go to the assembly. Am I correct? This
Yes.
is what this is. Okay. So I think support policies that recognize and respect teaching as a profession. And then it says it's important for the legislature and the people in general to recognize, as the SBA does, that teaching is a profession that requires a set of standards for qualifications. Undermining those standards is harmful to the K-12 system. You know, but okay, right, okay, I agree, but then I also think about what our current state is, you know, in teaching in the Arizona. You know, is that, you know, there's a teacher shortage, so are we saying that I mean, we all know that they should have teaching standards, but you're saying, I don't know what this is really saying here.
Well, my take on it was, you know, they always try to push for teachers without certification. And so I think ASBA is just saying that that has a set of of qualifications for, and standards of qualifications, and that probably would include, and that might be something you might have to clarify at that time, is are they referring to the teaching certification? Because maybe they need to be a little more specific in that regard, because as far as that goes, I mean, I totally believe that a teacher needs to be certified. So does this maybe open up to where they don't have to be? You just create a set of standards.
Well, and the good news is, as a delegate, you do have the opportunity to walk up to the mic and ask that question.
Which I think, yeah, this is why I wanted this discussion on this. I'm like, what does this really mean? You know, because when you read it, it's kind of open. Okay, what do you mean by this? You know, I mean, are you saying now we can't fill classrooms because we don't have a certified, teacher? You know what? So that's why I was. I mean, because there's a hit and miss in what we need. I'm like,
So question, so we still have a process for emergency certification, correct? So we may have teachers that are not completely certified, but there's a process. to make sure
Correct,
that they're
yes.
Temporary certified. Yeah, so I think it's pretty clear. I mean, I guess it could be somewhat open, but I will completely agree with undermining those standards is harmful to the K-12 system, and it definitely is if we don't follow this.
And perhaps the conversation is going to be, Ms. Smith, that because of a teacher shortage, what are the alternatives? I don't think we want to, anyone would agree that there is no standards for qualification. I mean, we would not go to a doctor that wasn't board certified.
Right.
And so we would want to support that, but I think the question for board members will be in the situations like we face now with teacher shortage, what are the ways in which we fill those classrooms, whether it be through emergency cert or through substitute certificates, and then with the intent that those employees would seek a degree or not seek a degree, you have that
Or
that
seek
timeline.
certification.
Or seek certification, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's probably something that I think we all agree needs to be asked.
Right.
But with the emphasis that certification is reached, is attained.
okay.
That's-
And then read the next one underneath it. It says, testing and accountability measures should be used only to drive instructional improvement. And then the rationale, is using standardized testing, to grade schools as a method of encouraging them to improve has not been successful. Testing results and any type of accountability system should be used only to identify potential instructional deficiencies and improve them without public shaming or financial, repercussions. Yeah, if I'm going to go and vote, give me some opinions. I have my opinions on this one.
So, if I may,
Yeah.
I think what there is, and these are all philosophical beliefs, obviously, that really when you look at what is the purpose of assessment, and the purpose of assessment is to improve instructional practices as a classroom teacher, and then also to monitor students where they are in making academic gains or monitoring their growth. So that's why we do assessments. What they're stating here is, and then the standardized assessment, then this all comes with the whole accountability, the A through F letter system, and they're taking the standardized tests, and they're moving away from what research says about it should be to improve instructional practices, to do a temperature check on where students are, but their concern would be then to remove, it could be, people would view that as removing the A through F accountability system, and we should not use those results as the only indicator of the progress a district is making or the progress that a child makes in their academic career. And that's where you get into the shaming for shaming or financial repercussions for that. So to me, that's going to be a very, I would venture to say that will be a very
Hot topic.
hot topic.
Yeah, because I think there are some legislators, and our governor in particular, that has suggested that we put financial gain with schools that are...
Success.
Yeah, that are being successful in academics. So that probably is one of the reasons why they put that in there as well. So you're probably going to have some...
And as you know, the state is still struggling with what are we in year 4, that we don't have a district letter grade, and the latest on the whole accountability system at the state level. We will not even receive that data until the end of August now, and maybe the first part of September is the latest from the state. So that's even delayed because they haven't determined what that A through F accountability system looks like. And then you have those anomalies that Glendale faces because we do have a district that has K-3 schools, and there is no formula in place to give a letter grade to those systems like that.
Great question. So, and if I'm off topic on the agenda, Liz will correct me or straighten me out there. So the shaming piece here, so do our students know or realize what a B, C, or even D means? So if I'm junior in class and I've got an A and then I see my school's got a C, I'm thinking, well, that doesn't sound right. So do our kids know that?
You know, I would venture to say that as parents and students, they know, we recognize, you know, kids, whether it's a numerical score, 4, 3, 2, 1, or A, B, C, D, F, they know what a C is, and if they had a C, their parents would say you should get, and maybe you should aim for A, but you're not failing, but if you were at a school that was a D or an F, they would say, well, I'm at a failing school. I don't know what impact that has on the child. I haven't really looked at all that research about the school label of that, but I'm not sure how well articulated those letter grades are at the school level. I couldn't speak to
So
that.
this shaming piece, and I felt it wasn't, it sounded like you do too, the shaming piece here really goes back to the labeling?
It goes back to the labeling, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah,
And
sure does.
there's so many variables that go with the letter grade. You know, we're not all, you receive a letter grade regardless of where you are in the state of Arizona. You know, if you're a title school, your label is A through F. Where if you're a non-title school, your labels are A through F. So that's where they get into the shaming. Many believe that there are districts that are at more of an advantage than others.
Right. Well, and I think also, I've always said this, even when it was Ames, the letter grades then, they're not accurate. Because to me, I'm thinking, you know, an A grade is, you know, 90% or above. But now knowing what I do know about how those are calculated, there's so many different factors, and it's not about, you know, 90% of your kids passing or above, you know, higher or above.
A standardized test is a point in time. It's that week in which they took it, or those couple of days in which they took it. I think what we've tried to model through the last several years is that districts put in place, whether they call them benchmarks or whatever, checkpoints, whatever you want to call them, that are aligned to state standards required to teach to, and try to build our assessments that are aligned to the standardized assessments, state assessments. We've been able to show that we are pretty much in alignment, and that how children do perform throughout the year on benchmarks really does, at times, more than not, matches what happens on their standardized tests. Right. So that's the other side of that.
I think too, any kind of public shaming or financial repercussions creates that, the haves versus the have-nots, you know, and that's just, doesn't work with in schools. So.
Got so I'll go down below that where it reads, support policies that protects school district employees and students from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Rationale, as a matter of educational equity and encouraging opportunity for all individuals, ASBA should say shall, support efforts to include prohibitions on discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in the federal, state, and local educational employment policies where they do not currently exist. So I would hope that we support that item there in its entirety. Any that exist, and we need to look at that. But I feel that's really important, that whole body there, that this board support that during that time you're out there, the delegates.
Well, you know, when I read that, though, I was kind of confused. I'm like, what does ASBA have to do with the federal policies, you know, unless they're working with the national association?
ASBA is a member of the national, so they do have representatives that would be at that level.
Interesting, all right.
So that's how it would do that.
All right. There was something on 29, but I have to find it on the next page.
Can I ask some clarifying questions? It's been a while since I've been on the delegate at all, one other time.
You want to go?
I'm not suggesting that I want to. Thank you. Matt, at this point, this time, are there any of these that we as a board can say, I mean, because they're all going to go through, but does it even say we want this item to have an emphasis on from this school district? Do we do that?
No.
We don't. It's just all in, or you just don't support it,
Well,
right? Because you can vote on it.
What you can do, and I've seen this in the times that I've been the delegate, a district will have something within the rationale or, the reasoning behind it that they want a little stronger. And then they have to go through the Robert's Rules of Order process. If, I want to change it to this, and then it's got to be done by word, and then they've got to get it typed out, got to get it 10 other people to sign off on it, and then we got to vote on that. If it passes, then we vote to do it again as a whole. If it doesn't, then we go back to the original format. Because some districts, I know one case in point, had to do with civilians with guns near the schools. And, right here in the middle of Phoenix, one district was like, absolutely no way, no way, no way. But your rural communities got up. Our law enforcement may be 45 minutes to 2 hours away because we're so spread out. We rely on our community that's nearby our schools to help us. So that was a case of somebody going up and trying to change it from the floor, and,
So it pass or fails.
Right.
Yeah, with the amendment.
Right.
So it's amended.
First the amendment had to pass.
Right.
And so in that case, it did not pass because some of the rationale was, kind of leave it a little bit neutral
Okay.
to not others.
Otherwise, these all go through.
If that's how the delegate, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So then we go back to this one then. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm asking that our delegates support this item I just read in the positive, and if that's what we so please, but that's what I'm asking, that we vote in favor of this one. I don't like the word should, because that just means that we might do it, doesn't necessarily mean we are. I would like to change that to shall, because should and shall are two different words I've learned. But should means like, yeah, we might do it.
Well, that
So
can
is
be
that
direction that
important?
we can give to Ms. Smith as a representative to ask for that wording change.
So will Ms. Smith and yourself have that direction from the board?
Well, that would be, we would have
Right.
to,
If that's what we decide right now, then we would.
yeah, then that would be the direction on her.
Well, and I would like to ask the board that we vote in the positive of this item and the items that Ms. Smith talked about. But in this one specifically, shall and not should, because it just means maybe it won't happen.
Now, you have to understand too that when she goes,
Correct.
there is Ms. Bartels will be on the other side when she can't vote. She can talk to Ms. Smith, but somebody might say something that might change her mind.
That is right.
So, we're giving her that option, that, not power, but, well, I guess so, So when we tell her that, she's going to be the representative, that she just might change her mind on, depending on what somebody says.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, then you should go, so you can sit and you can give her
But even
direction.
then, even if I do go, what I'm saying is if this board has asked for us to vote in the positive for something, we're not saying go over there and you might be saying, this is what we asked you to
I was just
represent.
referring to the word shall and
Oh.
should, not the whole thing.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, just
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
somebody might say, well, this is the reason why should is in there.
I got you, that piece I can agree with.
Yeah, not the,
I can,
not
okay,
the,
no, that we've given direction, okay.
Right.
I can agree with that.
yeah.
But just so everybody is
SBA
clear,
can say, this is why, and it's
Right.
probably a better
Correct.
route. I'm okay with
but just so everybody's clear, when she's on the floor, I'm off the floor. We don't get to have any interaction. I mean, it's almost like tag team.
You can look
One
at
needs a break.
You can look at it.
Oh, I'll see the same information, I'll see what's happening, but I can't have any interaction with her on the floor while it's happening.
You can't take
So the other thing is though, Sarah doesn't have to go up there unless we're asking her to. So I guess.
Well, and somebody else may be to the
Yeah,
microphone
that
too.
too, right.
Yeah,
But so we're asking her to do that. We're asking her to support these, and then the ones that she's brought as well.
Is the
Yeah.
Then on the next page, the very last one, I don't really understand what they were asking. So it says require consistency in the recusal of a board member from a decision in which a member or member's employer stands to benefit financially, which we have policies on this, but it says rather than continue to address school board conflict issues on a case-by-case basis legislatively, I don't understand that word there. It says ASBA should have a clear and consistent position to support policy that requires recusal from an issue before a public body. The policy should be consistent across the state and local government. So, I mean, are our policies legislative? I mean, is there a legislative thing about, I don't get it.
Mr. Barragán, would you have some insight here?
Madam President, members of the board, I'm going to try to think of a situation where I think they're trying to address it.
The other school district, I'm sure that this was in the news and that indictment, yes.
I don't know that, for example, if I were on the board and I worked for a company that sold HVAC units, we were purchasing a significant amount of those across the district. And this is the best example that I can think of. If I work for them, I benefit from my school district potentially purchasing those items, whether that's my performance, whether, so I think they're trying to make sure and have more clear expectations of what might be a conflict of interest. So again, if you have a business or your employer is benefiting and interacting with the district, you would have to completely recuse yourself, more likely from the discussion to try to influence it one way or the other, and from actually voting. So again, I think it's try to make this more clear and avoid any perceived or actual conflicts of interest.
So that would definitely be one that you go to the mic and ask them for clarification on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really what it's saying is rather than case by case, across the board, I mean, period, there's no case by case. If you have a conflict, you need to come forward prior to.
Madam President, members of the board, what I would say is when you look at all the levels of government, whether it's at the city level, the state level, school districts have probably the most stringent procurement laws, requirements, policies that even the cities don't have, that the state does not have itself. So things that we may not be able to do at the city or at the state level, they can. And so perhaps that's where they want to be more consistent so that there aren't any levels of degrees of procurement within the different levels of government.
But even with this, there are different degrees of procurement, because if you're in a very rural area and you're on the board, but you're the only person with a hardware store, you do have to do business. And so there are those stipulations that are for that reason.
Madam President, members of the board, your rural districts will have challenges that we will never understand because of, I think you talked about security, you talked about goods and services, whether it's a hardware, whether it's whatever that service, they have challenges that we will never be able to truly relate to that also need to be well thought out. But again, I think when you're looking at the local government pieces, is to bring some level of consistency where we may do something wrong, but it's completely appropriate and legal in the charter school law, for example.
Or
right?
a university or a college, those would be in the education world. And often people don't understand why a public school district cannot participate in something, whereas a university or a college can do that, because the public sees it as, and it's education. What's the difference, between a university and an elementary school or a school district? And I think that's what we're trying to get through, is across the state and local government, regardless.
So I don't know if that is really beneficial to us. So we would be equal to the college, equal to the city, equal to the state, where ours, like, as you said, we have some of the most stringent. By following the majority, we may not have the most stringent anymore. So is this even beneficial to us? What it says across the board, we may be forfeiting a real stringent policy.
Madam President, members of the board, I don't know that I'm in a position to answer that question.
You meant to say, yes, I'd like to get rid of all those rules.
Am I always for less red tape? Absolutely. With that said, I think that the board will have to evaluate it on what's best for this community and for this district based on the community.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is by voting on this, are we telling them to go ahead and go across the board? And by doing so, we may lose our stringency, and I don't want to do that.
Okay, well, then
I would
that's
ask.
fair.
Yeah,
I'd
that's-
hate for us
that's
to
why.
forfeit that.
Yeah, you could just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the things, reading, I'm like, what does this
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah, because we don't know who submitted these either, so,
That's true.
you
They may
know,
have their
Their reasoning.
comes through, what the reasoning is, it may.
makes sense.
I think, you know, basically, we'll be leaving a lot of that up to you,
Right.
Mrs. Smith. If you feel you need to get up and clarify something, then you go ahead. I think basically what we want to know right now, is there anything here that you do not agree with, that you would like her to vote no?
I rather get those.
I think, you know, that it should just come back to me or to the board, you know, if there's something that we want to discuss further, you know, at a different time, but.
I didn't see, nothing jumped out at me.
Yeah, nothing. And we heard Mr. Alabama's request, you know, just to change the word from should to shall,
I agree with that.
and I have no issue with that.
And even then, if that doesn't go through, it's not really going to be a huge deal.
Might be a legal reason why, but I'd like to hear it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you can come back and report, and if there's any fun stuff that we missed out on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think on that, if I remember right, changing a simple word from like should to shall, it's not going to require the vote like it is if somebody wants to kind of change a little bit more of the meaning behind it. I think they can do that.
So we need
Simple
a motion.
modification.
Yeah, so we'll need
They'll do like a motion in a second.
And we
you know.
will need a motion now to give
Yeah.
direction.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that on the one directive that we change the word, ask Ms. Smith to request the word change to shall, as discussed.
I second that.
Ms. Smith, how do you vote?
Hi.
Mrs. Aldama? Mr. Aldama? Mrs. Bartel?
Aye.
Mr. Bartel? Mrs. Pimentel?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and that passes. All right, so right now we are going to move down into our little circle there. We're going to conduct a board workshop in which our topics of discussions are going to include the governing board and superintendent goals, the superintendent's performance pay criteria, governing board update protocol, governing board policy section B, school board governance and operations, and the governing board self-evaluation. After that, we'll come back for 8 and 9, and so with that, we move.
question that had to do with the supplemental evaluation. Why don't you could take mine.
Where is that? Under 7?
Yep.
I like shrinking of the conference table here. I do. Sometimes it's too big and everyone's far away.
Like this?
Yeah, the little more intimate conversation.
Okay, everybody ready? All right. So we're going to start with the superintendent's strategic goals. So I'll go ahead and let you begin with that. Mrs. President. I think everybody has
Yes,
a copy.
thank you. There's an additional copy that says superintendent's goals. That's the one, and it should not be in the notebook. It should be separate. That's the one we need to look at.
On the table.
Because depending on how you're going to determine the performance pay, one of the indicators would be strategic goals, but also personal goals. So I added the personal goals onto this document. So I took the 3 strategic goals based on the overarching goals of the district, which would be to increase student achievement and to close the achievement gap, and also to look at sustaining financial solvency. So each of these strategic goals come from another document, what we refer to as the master plan, or the original strategic plan that the district had done. And if you'll notice on that, the date is 2015 through 2018, and this would be the year 18-19, we'd go back and start to revise the master plan. I know, Dr. Peterson, you're saying, wow, it seems like, wow, we just did this, but it's been that long, so it's been, so this would be, so what I did, I was looking at, obviously, the vision, mission, and core values of the district, and then where we are as the master plan to my strategic goals. So the first one reads, develop a highly effective organization aimed at improving student performance and advancing academic achievement of all schools within the district by employing highly qualified staff and modeling and observing leadership at all levels. Then I put under each goal the evidence in which, when you do conduct your evaluation, you would be looking for the artifacts. What is it? How do I know that the superintendent is doing this? And so we would look at things such as recognizing staff programs for their accomplishments, recognizing the governing board and the community for their support and excellence, increasing academic achievement, marketing the district, and increasing staff retention. And each of these fall under the master plan as well. So that would be that first goal. And that second goal would be to increase community awareness by engaging community groups to the educational process, providing families with resources, and promoting programs within the community, and evidence being by participating as a visible member of the community. Other evidence would be you could have artifacts in is, for example, last night I attended Coffee with a Cop, and it was the Phoenix PD and Glendale PD. So it's those types of things that would be my artifacts. Also, just so you know, when you get into the superintendent's evaluation tool, all these align with some indicator on your evaluation tool as well. Then goal 3 would be the strategic goal, sustain GSD financial solvency by monitoring long-range facility and capital plans and ensuring alignment of resources with organizational priorities. And then that's going to be me working with municipal legislators on fiscal matters, monitoring the budget, reviewing monthly reports. Really, you have evidence of the progress of the capital lawsuit, all those things, what we're doing with SFB, those would be the evidence that I would bring forth. So those would be my strategic goals. Those fall right under the umbrella of what we said we wanted to do as a district. Then the personal goals, I took the personal goals based off indicators from the superintendent's evaluation. So things at the superintendent's level would be encourage community participation in schools by expanding partnerships, provide community resources to families, promote programs and initiatives into the community. And then the goal 2 would be engage in effective community relations and school business partnerships by promoting the district throughout the community, and that's by attending those events and improving partnerships across the district at all schools, not just at pockets of schools. And then exhibit multicultural and ethnic understanding, sensitivity, and respect for diversity by dispelling inaccurate beliefs. Evidence would be promote a culturally responsive educational organization and increase the knowledge of accurate information about diverse populations. And that one is extremely important to me because as we look at our student data, sometimes our diverse populations, all the way from our gifted education programs to our special needs programs, or English language learners programs, our students are not progressing at the rate we would want them to. And that's really about, I believe, I think we are moving in the right direction. I still think there's some work to be done about dispelling inaccurate beliefs about, for example, English language minority children cannot learn. If you're a special needs child, you cannot learn. So those would be my personal goals to work on. And again, each of these, I think Ms. Powell has put in there the evaluation of a superintendent. Is that tool in there? Yes. So each of these goals, all 6, are somewhere in the document. Is that on the table?
Yes.
It's in his book.
Oh, in your book?
Where is it in the book?
It's in the back.
It's under,
You went through this really quick, so are we going to come back to it?
Yeah, you can go through that. I just given you an overview.
No, we're going to have a discussion on this?
Yes. Because we have to mutually agree.
We're going to
So-
do that today.
Yeah, let's take a minute and look at our, at the beginning in your book. There is the governing board goals, which are increase student achievement, ensure the district's financial solvency, attract and retain highly qualified staff.
I want to digress on this a little bit, because on here it says governing board goals, and then underneath that it says our goals on the agenda. And I feel that this is just not the right terminology, okay? Because later in the study session, we're supposed to be going through the little survey that we did through ASBA, and we're supposed to be going through that, and we're supposed to set goals by things that we, that we measured and discuss it. Those would be governing board goals, and then we would say, hey, did we improve on that on our self-evaluation, the next time? And so, putting up here governing board goals, I really think it should say, maybe it should be governing board priorities or district priorities. It's like, we set, but as a governing board, we did set, like, look, these are things that, that we want you to focus on. We want you to focus on increased student achievement, ensure our district's financial solvency, and attract and retain highly qualified staff. But I really think, that this is continuing to say that this is a governing board goal.
those were the goals you adopted.
Yeah,
right?
we adopted those. We
I
spent some
know
time.
that we adopted those in May, and I agree with what we put on there, but I'm saying the terminology is confusing. So you're just saying, because what I'm saying is, in a little while, we're going to be going through this self-evaluation, and we should be doing this every year, and we're supposed to be setting goals, and also we're going to say, okay, we have governing board goals, and we have governing goals over here. What are our governing board goals,
First of all, that evaluation is old.
No, the new one that we just did.
Yeah, we did that. How long ago did we do that? A year ago?
But this is something that we want to change, and this is something that we've been saying that we want to change.
I know, but that was a pilot, and I don't think that I wasn't under the impression that that was going to be something that we were going to actually hold true. I mean, I thought we were just going to take a look at it and see what kind of what the procedure was that they used, or the evaluation tool that they used, and take a look. I mean, I'm not even sure if it's truthful, as it might be something that we might want to use or take from when we create our own evaluation. When we talk about priorities, we should have governing board goals, and then these are the goals, and then we can add priorities under that. But goals is something that, I mean, how do the rest of you feel?
I think I see what Sarah's saying. You're looking at this front page where it says governing board goals, and underneath it,
Our goals, what the
Yeah,
heck does that mean?
It says, it's redundant. So right here on this page where it says governing board goals, 1, 2, 3, and then after that it says our goals, increase student achievement and eliminate the achievement gap on the very front page.
That's the agenda.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what you and I are both looking at.
So change that.
That's where I think,
Just take
Because it used to say priorities, and then it got to goals.
okay. So
And then our goals, if someone's reading this, who's our?
right.
I can agree on,
GESD
I
goals.
can agree on that piece, on the our goals, period, just
Yeah.
why is that even there? So that I can agree with, that's, I've always thought that was confusing, so. Yeah, we define that,
Where are they listed?
so do we put these underneath there, because eliminating the achievement gap is almost same as increasing student achievement. One's increasing it, one's eliminating it.
I don't know why that's there either. You just want to eliminate it?
But to me, I'm like, if you're talking about a governing board goals, okay? To me, in my mind, okay, you're saying governing board goals. Okay, again, we evaluate how we do as a governing board. We're not evaluating us on how we did on increasing student achievement. We don't do that, okay? What we're doing is like, did we set the direction? Do we understand A? Do we understand B? Do we understand C? Are we, did we improve, in A, B, and C? This is, to me, so saying governing board goals is not it. To me, it should be like, this is our, put it together. This is our master plan, and this is the GESD master plan, or whatever. It's a strategic plan, or whatever words we, that we want to put in there. So it's more mixed, the way it should be, because then it's just.
Because everything that I've gone to training for, if you have board goals, district goals, superintendent goals. Board is just how are we effective in supporting what the superintendent needs to do? So, are there behaviors or things that we could do, something as simple as, all right, our questions, getting them in this much time in advance so that staff has time to give us an answer. That would be a goal as a board to
That's
improve.
part of the evaluation.
Yeah, but that's our self-evaluation, so that's where board goal would come up. But a district goal and a superintendent goal, district is district-wide, superintendent is superintendent-specific, just like board goals are board-specific.
Sarah, are you saying that these 1, 2, and 3 should not be governing board goals? Is that what you're saying?
They're
Not our role?
they're not our role. I think that's our direction. I think that's the direction we're giving.
Isn't that a goal?
So what if I said wordsmithed it differently and said, it is the governing board goals to create policy that increases student achievement? Would that still be our governing board goal? Because that's what we do, we create policies that allow those 3 to occur through that person there.
You'd have to repeat that again.
Okay, so if I were to read it, governing board goals, governing board goals is to create policy to increase student achievement. Would it still be a goal of ours? Because we have to create a policy that increases student achievement, so it can still remain there.
Yeah,
So maybe,
So we don't create policies that will create.
no, it's student achievement. Maybe the way I look at it is a simple question: why are you a governing board member?
As you put it.
Yeah, why did you become a governing board member? And I'm just going to go back to, if I was, at one time I was going to run for a governing board seat. And the reason I wanted to run for that governing board seat was because I wanted to ensure that every child in that district had equal access so they could perform you know, with, and receive academic standards at the highest level, and that there would be equity for all students. That was my major thing, because I saw inequity across 22 schools, or whatever that might be. That was my drive to run for the governing board, okay? So under that, I would say, you know, a goal could be to ensure that all students have access to, or all students will achieve with high standards. And you could, I'm looking at this right now, by engaging, exploring, enriching, empowering learners as leaders. And then that means, you're hiring the right superintendent to make sure all that happens.
Yeah, so.
That, it's just that simple as a governing board goal. When you talk about different types of board, how are you going to get that done? You're going to get that done through how you interact with each other. How do you support your administration? How do you support teachers? By ensuring that administrators have, by ensuring that teachers have, by ensuring the community has. I kind of see it that way.
Yeah, so if you put it that way, so I would change, just these are just, I'm just putting them in here, but, so I kind of get to know where you're going now. So governing board goals put that way could be, 1, accountability, 2, transparency, fiscal responsibility. Those are goals of a board.
To ensure those things.
Yes, those, I'm not saying it's what we put there, but that's what we do. When you put it in that context, yeah.
Why did you run for the governing board?
That's correct.
You know, it wasn't, I didn't run for a governing board position to ensure that, I mean, you know, just make something up. You have to really go back to the question.
I'm running for a school board to increase student achievement, because that would be.
To ensure that.
Yeah, to
because
ensure
if I would ask
Not
you, Mr. Aldama, how are you going to increase student achievement? And you're saying, well, I'm going to go in the classroom, and you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to make sure that you hired this,
I'm going to ensure you.
that I'm doing it, and how I'm doing it is I say in my first goal, I'm going to make sure that I'm improving that student performance, because I'm going to make sure that I've got highly qualified assistant superintendent in instructional services, in finance and HR, and that we are hiring highly effective principals that can do that, and they're hiring highly effective teachers that can do that. So it goes
Correct.
down that.
So if you're not increasing it, we don't fire ourselves, we fire the
No,
superintendent.
I'm the one.
Or replace. Correct. So that, I like how you stated that, so.
If you're not doing that, though, if you're not doing your goal, then you're not voted back in,
That's correct.
right? That's that whole process, yeah.
So.
I think some of the things that Ms. Smith and Ms. Bartels are talking about also, too, are some of those collective commitments that we agreed to. And so those are commitments. But then when you talk about specific other goals, your goals are ensuring that go down your, if you look at, I looked at this assessment piece, the evaluation assessment piece, there's specific things in here. It doesn't have to be this one, but it could be any one that says you're going to conduct yourself in an ethical manner, or whatever that is. Those are goals that you have, personal board goals as well. And then what are you committed to? We're committed to that we're not going to scream and shout at each other at board meetings. I mean, right, that simple.
See, so when I see this right here, you know, and I think if you put, you know, whatever, so put it, it's a priority. And then the reason that we have it, you know, like on our agenda is so that we know that when we make our decisions and when we have our action items, that they should reflect, you know, increasing student achievement, the district financial solvency and tracking, and, you know, so that we can remember, you know, that those are why we're here and why we have certain things on the agenda. So, you know, and so really, and then, you know, then this should be like saying, hey, it's going. So I don't, like I said, I don't know that when you're saying, you know, governing board goals, that these aren't our goals. And so
Well,
that's.
you could also look at it that governing board goals are supposed to be broad, and there's only supposed to be 2 or 3 of them. There's not supposed to be a whole bunch of them, but instead of increasing student achievement, just plain old student achievement. You know, that's something that we should always keep in mind. Financial solvency, you know, we just, you know, just straight across the board. And of course, attracting and retaining highly qualified staff would come under student achievement. But it was my understanding when I went to some workshops was that they are supposed to be broad, and that they're only supposed to be 2 or 3 words. You know, and so student achievement should be, you know, a goal and something that we always have to keep in mind, whatever decision we make. But I you know, we need to have, instead of priorities, we do need to have goals.
So let me give you just an example of what we do at the city. So as council members, every year, we review and then re-vote in city council priorities. So one of our priorities is to ensure, so let's just take, so financial solvency, that's one of them. So that's the direction to the city manager, or in this case, Cindy. So one of our priorities is fiscal responsibility. So we work on that. Everything we do, our workshops, everything we do in that whole fiscal year is that priority through the city manager to make sure we get there. We have a lot of them. One of them is about downtown Glendale. How do we revitalize downtown Glendale? And then so everything we do in the year, in that fiscal year, not everything, but a lot of, is getting there through you. So we call them priorities. I mean, the goals here, but they could just simply be priorities. That's how we call them, and that's what we carve everything out around that. The next year, we may take one off or two off and add another one because we're done with it. And if we're not, we keep it there.
And I think some of the key words, the verb is to ensure. That's what you're doing. You're ensuring that students are going to have academic success. I mean, are going to achieve at high rates. Or, you know, we have to think what that would be. But as the governing board, you're ensuring all those things place. You're ensuring that there's solvency. You're ensuring that students are achieving. You're ensuring that we have highly qualified staff. That's your job, to ensure that.
So what's your suggestion after that? Are you wanting to remove these? Or change them?
No, I don't want to change like the wording under 1, 2, and 3. That's fine with me, okay? That's fine, okay? But I'm saying governing board goals, you know, to me, my suggestion would just change it to priorities, okay? And then, or change it to even district priorities instead of governing board priorities, because it really isn't.
I can support governing board priorities, simply because of what I just explained. It has a lot of meat, a lot of teeth to it when it's the governing board priorities. It really does. I could support that. And I could support removing hours. I don't know where that comes from, who that defines.
You know, but, okay, but then we're talking about, okay, say we want all these things to be, you know, working together, okay, but, okay, so then we have our goals, okay, and this is what, you know, went out to our new teachers, and the thing, it says increase student achievement and eliminate the achievement gap. You said that's the goal, or I don't know why it's.
See, to me, that one, I think, is to me, I think of that as more of the vision, because that's where we're trying to get to.
Well, you could remove our goals. You could have governing board goals and remove our goals. But I just want to state there is a difference between increasing student achievement and eliminating the achievement gap. That's the difference. Because you could be increasing student achievement, but doing, like we do that. We increase in student achievement right now, but we have an achievement gap that we need to close.
Right.
And that's those diverse populations.
Right.
And that's an ongoing.
Yeah.
Right.
So are we ever going to eliminate it?
Yes, we are.
We are. So
I hope so.
That's the right answer.
That's the right answer.
It is the right answer.
Yeah, we need to eliminate
That's
that.
admirable, but is there an attainable goal within the next 4, 8, 10 years? Everyone will say, yes, we're going to get there, but are we really going to get there that we're saying we're eliminating it? I guess it's a reminder that we have to get there, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So I guess it's important to leave there. I don't know if we're ever going to.
Well, we could eliminate the achievement gap with certain diverse populations. For example, if you could have an achievement gap between your general ed population and your population, and you could eliminate that gap if you,
categorize them,
yeah, you could do that. You know, yeah, that's the whole question. You know, eliminate the achievement gap is. I just want people to understand that is different than increasing student achievement. We've increased student achievement all along. There's no doubt. You've seen that. Have I eliminated the achievement gap? I'm making progress. We make progress on that. I do that as a teacher. I do that as, you know, a principal. But have I eliminated it completely? No. No.
No different than
Yeah.
Okay.
debt, right? So eliminating debt and decreasing the
That's
debt.
right. Mm-hmm.
So you have this master plan, and so on here, it just says your overarching goals, you know, is the way that it was, and so that's the way, you know, that you put it on here. But, I mean, do we just change it to district goals? Do you know, so that this is fluid, this is fluid, so that they're all working together.
Yeah, there's some inconsistencies from the documents, definitely, and it needs to be very clear what they are, but those could be overarching documents, and even other documents we have, their overarching goals.
See, but I wouldn't want to write overarching,
No.
because if someone's just going to read it, what the heck does that mean, overarching?
If I may, President Wilson, members of the board and superintendent, the historical part of it, when those two, our goals were created, I believe the purpose or the intention of those two goals, besides that they are our purpose for what we do, were to be district goals. That was the initial, when
Our defines by.
yeah, our was, that was kind of what our purpose was.
Everybody.
It was a
No matter where you are at a school,
It wasn't like governing board or it wasn't superintendent, it was meant to be district.
as a
goals.
district goal.
So then you say Glendale Elementary,
Yeah.
GESD goals.
Yes.
So my issue is, so I agree with that, so it could be district. And I know you're not saying to change it, but if we were to change all this, and you suggested earlier, we voted that in, we adopted that. If we go back and change it, what message are we sending? We just don't know what our goals are. We've changed them many times, and when do we stop changing them? No, it's not a concrete, it's more of a living document, I get it, but we can't be changing our goals every time we turn left and right. So I've got a concern with changing them.
I think you could state that, because they are adopted. I do think we could change our goals to district goals.
Or Glendale
That
Community.
we could talk about that. And then when you talk about governing board goals, increase, ensure, and attract, I think if you just went back to that verb, you could run that all in one long sentence that said, the governing board's goal is to ensure that, and we craft a sentence that encompasses each of those goals or those statements, and that is your goal. You're ensuring all those things. And as a district, the goal really focuses, or the district goals, as we call that, is really back to that increase the student achievement and limit the achievement gap. But the governing board goal, to me, as President Wilson said, it's very broad. It is very broad. And so that's why you ensure, what is ensuring student achievement? There's a lot of things to ensure that there's going to be an increase in student achievement. You're talking about safe schools, you're talking about an environment that's safe. It's all those things, all those broad things. And then you leave that to your superintendent, your assistant supes, your principals to get to the finite of that. When you talk about that SMART goal, that's down at the classroom level that says, I'm going to increase, reading by 10% for this year, or whatever that might be. That's when it gets really, really specific, is right down into classroom level. We just have those bigger goals. As a district, we can also set, in educational services, we have those district goals, but we're going to decrease the number of mentally proficient students by 20%, or whatever that is. We know in order for us to eliminate that achievement gap, we know that we've got to decrease the number of mentally proficient children, and we need to do that at third grade math by 32%, And some of the goals we almost met or didn't meet one this year. So that's where those come into play.
Where are we going?
I'll go back.
Moving our and adding district?
Changing our goals to district goals, and
If
then,
that's what the intent was, then yeah, I would say yes, change it.
and then under governing board goals,
We need to word just
Ensure,
that.
yeah.
to ensure,
So does that have to be an action item that we bring back to amend it?
We'd have to, because we're changing, yeah.
Yes.
Bring back.
So then I would ask for someone to write that up and then.
well, do you want to go ahead and write that up and then bring it back to us?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll do that. Is that something the rest of you are okay with?
Why don't we hear it from Liz, each line item?
She's
Or
going
each-
to bring it back to us.
Yeah, sure, yeah, they'll bring it back to us.
Well,
and then
we were
we
asking
can-
the world, well, we can have another round at it.
All right, any other,
Well, then I can go back to her superintendent.
Yeah, we need to go back to mine.
To her superintendent goals.
uh-huh,
And then, where it was in our papers. Okay, So in our papers, it said, like when you wanted to talk about performance pay, and it had three subcategories that came, you know, okay, so
The
That
resolution,
was, yeah,
That-
that was something we brought up before. This is just a sample,
right.
yeah.
Okay, but so administrative, okay, to me, is, okay, you have the, so you had her evaluation, okay, so administrative standards, okay? And then you said that you did some of these, when you looked at the evaluation, right? When you did some of these goals that were in here to make sure that you're, had the administrative things listed in here? Is that true?
yeah,
Like-
I took the overall, at what we were calling the governing board, the governing board goals from there, and then I went in and looked at for personal goals, and even some of the strategic goals there, that you'll find them as indicators under some of these. So if you look under educational leadership, that's the first one. That one I didn't pull from, I took it from, well, I did take it from Standard 2, support curriculum and instructional programs. That's where we're getting to student achievement, because those would be indicators of that. And then I did from Standard 4, communications, and I did from Standard 6, personal leadership.
Okay, so then I'm just gonna have to ask, okay, about this and the trainings, that we've been going to. So when we go to these trainings and they're talking about our self-evaluation, the superintendent's evaluation, and setting these goals, that they should all align, okay? So, and that they should be smart, okay? So, and that they should be measurable, okay? And the reason that they said that is so that when we have our agendas that are on here, that we make sure that we discuss, like we have some timelines. So the strategic goal is develop a highly effective organization aimed at improving student performance and advancing academic achievement. And then there's evidence down here that needs to come back to us. So to me, this should be simpler, a simpler goal, we go to for the performance pay. So to me, so we had on here, the district goal was increase student achievement. So to me, it'd be like, okay, our strategic goal is to, improve student achievement. And then to me, your evidence is it's coming back to us whenever you set, like, okay, you're going to prove it to me, in 3 times or 4 times a year, whatever times that you set, so that then we can go, but it's, it's simple, and we can measure it, and we have our little timetables, that's what it keeps, that's what we keep saying, that it has to come back. We don't set these goals and not have them come back to us on our agendas, so if student achievement is really, what the district goals are, then that should be a strategic goal, and then, then Cindy would come and say, okay, how am I going to...
And when you look at the administrative standards, or you look at the performance pay, then I am required to provide to you a report, public report on academic achievement. So that would be evidence of superintendent will report in, we're at the mercy of the state, but say October. Typically, we have all the data by October. In October, and then we would do that again in the spring, because we could do that based on the third quarter benchmark. So that has been what the assistant superintendent has done when I sat in that chair. But I went through the superintendent who brings it to the board to do. So that's where I would give you those reports on student achievement, for example.
So I'm going to take that a little further. So I guess it changes from the should and shall deal. So evidence is just kind of lame a little bit to me. But I hear what Sarah's saying. So let's just take goal number 2, increase community awareness by engaging, and goes on. Rather than say evidence, best demonstrated by And I agree with Sarah that that needs to come back, but I think best demonstrated by what, returned to the board by, demonstrated by a report. There has to be something there that demonstrates that you achieved that goal. And then I
Best
agree that-
demonstrated by the superintendent attended 19 coffee talks with cops, attended 22, whatever it is. I mean, that type of
Best
stuff,
demonstrated
whatever
by,
it is.
yeah. But I agree with Sarah that it needs a return back to us. We
Right.
need to see now the evidence. But I just think evidence shouldn't be there, but it should just be best demonstrated by.
See, to me, you know, like, this is administrative right here, and you can come back with a lot of the evidence that's down here. But to me, strategic, it's like, we're being very, you know, like, okay, student achievement, the end, you know, like, then you come back to us and give us the evidence and when, you know, so it's not, I don't think it's recognizing staff, you know, programs for the college, but yeah, that is what we want, you know, we do want the staff, but I think our goal, you know, the strategic goal for you should be, you know, from us, I don't know,
I
smaller.
think for us, more specific, more clear, because when we do evaluate you, we're not all educators, so we're not going to see the stuff. But if, you know, like you said, you had department goals and you had, you know, to increase scores in the minimally proficient by X%, you know, in these different subcategories. To me, that would be more specific and it would be, you know, much clearer because then it doesn't allow for any swaying of, well, I don't agree with that, or I do agree with that. If we know that, okay, the goal was, you know, to increase this group, these lower groups that we know we're trying to get up to help reduce the, you know, close that achievement gap, we can see that and we can't argue against it. You know, if the goal was to, you know, increase all of these subgroups by 5% and let's say 4 out of 5 hit the 5 and 1 hit 4, we can have a legitimate conversation as to the success of that goal.
I think
you
you're
know
getting
what
a
I mean?
little too specific, though. I don't think that's really the role of the board.
No, but for us to evaluate her performance, we should have a clear, but it's very, very clear, it's very defined.
Right.
It can be one small aspect in order to, you know, to say, you know, every single student increased by 10%, you know, is that attainable? I don't know. But if we know we're trying to close that achievement gap and we want to go to subcategories, what I'm saying is something very specific so that when we evaluate her, we know this was what the goal was. Very clear. And it doesn't leave itself up to, oh, I can't think of the word now. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I guess my question would be, for example, if you're going to use this evaluation instrument, which I assume you do, it says on here, standard 1, facilitates the development, articulation, implementation, and stewardship of a vision of learning that is shared and supported by the local school community. And here's the indicators, or best demonstrated by, develops, implements, and monitors the district mission to improve student achievement, promotes support for and fulfillment of the vision. I have no idea how I give you an artifact on that.
Neither do I.
So, but that's what you're asking me to do.
I know.
So, because I'm going to ask, when you're talking about my evaluation, I take that very seriously.
Right.
And I'm an overachiever. So I'm going to make sure I understand what that artifact is. What do you want evidence of? Like I can tell you for student achievement, I'm going to give you the reports. I'm going to bring it to you. I'm going to show you where we're at. That's easy to do. But when you're telling me provides purpose and direction for the individual and groups within the district, demonstrate knowledge of educational issues and how they affect students, schools, and the community, I'm going to ask you, please tell me what those artifacts are.
And you know what? And I would be, thank you, please do, because I think that's where we've
This isn't
struggled.
my evaluation tool,
Yeah,
it's yours.
I know.
You need to come up with the artifacts.
Yeah, we don't like
What are
it.
the artifacts?
Best demonstrated by X.
Yeah,
We
by
can
what?
come up with X.
Yeah, what is the X?
So when we put these together, to me, the strategic part should be weighted more. You know, if you're looking at this, really. So, and we're saying that our most important thing here and here is student achievement. So then that should be weighted a lot higher. And so to me, like, you know, a strategic goal, which is right here, should just be student achievement, and it should be weighted a lot higher than a 40% on performance pay, because that's what we want. You know,
Well,
so
because,
that's
for
where
example, on professional leadership,
Which one?
Here's one. Demonstrates a sense of humor.
Well, then
I expect a 5 on that. But I mean, so.
Well, I won't say anything
really.
publicly right now, but.
I mean, so I understand where you're saying these are the administrative standards. I get that.
It's very subjective.
The strategic goals here are based off what I presented, but we want to come up with more specific artifacts demonstrated by, and you want me to tell you specifically how I'm going to do that, right?
It's amazing we're trying to change this again.
You know, I have to laugh because when I was at one of the PLC, in fact, I think it was when we were at
San Antonio or Monterey?
Yeah, I think it was when we were in San Antonio. But we were in a, you know, in a little round table, and so we were talking about superintendent evaluation. And he said, you know, you just need to ask, how are we doing? That's your, that's your the whole question. That's what you evaluate your superintendent on. How are we doing? And so he said, you know, because I was saying, well, how do we, you know, what are the administrative? He said, you don't need to do all that. It's just basic. How are we doing? Show us evidence that we're moving. Show us evidence that we're going in the right direction, and that you don't need to get any more specific than that.
Yeah,
And
because
you know,
I agree.
sometimes I've always said that this is just a little too much.
Convoluted?
Yeah.
Well, and subjective too, so.
Yeah, this is, most of this is subjective, okay? All this the majority of this administrative stuff, you know, ends up being subjective. I mean, you know, that's the way it's been. You know, I'll just tell you that right now.
So
It
here's
was
the
the obvious
difference.
when that guy told me that.
So there's truth to that, and I'm just going to copy on that and tell you why this needs to be complex. So Oprah Winfrey, when she interviewed, because I like Oprah Winfrey, she interviewed Michael Jackson, she says, I already knew where he was in his whole life, but one question, it's a question she asked everyone, and she already knows, like, she knows what you're thinking. She asked one question, similar to yours, what makes you happy? And the people that pause, like, she already knows. But if you say, oh, my family, my dog, my kid, you're a pretty much a happy person. The reason why this can't be that way is because we have parents in the community that we have to adhere to, and we have to make sure they understand that you're doing your job. That's why this has to be somewhat complex and not that simple. But you get right to the point.
Well, don't you think that maybe that's just what the community wants to know? How are we doing? How's my
Are we
kid doing?
improving?
Sure, but not just, I mean, it can't just be.
Not by my sense of humor. I mean, it can't just be that. I mean,
Why not? We'd be an A
I
school.
can get a 5. Right?
Spent a lot of time changing this thing, like twice.
Yeah, well, no, you know, and I wasn't
Okay,
saying
I
that
was
we
like,
just need to
again.
ask that one question, but I'm just saying, this is too much. This is, and I've always felt that, but,
And that's why I think our strategic ones need to
Goals
just
be
be,
weighted more.
Weighted more, but really clear and defined and not open to interpretation, I think is the
so
best.
we can evaluate on that.
yeah, so like I said, you know, so your goal one, to me, would be like student achievement. Goal 2 on here, it says, what,
Committee
the community
awareness.
awareness.
So let me just
know.
ask, so on to increase student achievement, so then there's no buy to that, you just want to increase student achievement, and then you want me to bring to you how I've increased student achievement?
No. She needs, so not she, but the superintendent, we need to give her a goal of X. We want you to increase by, what is it, 2% significantly?
1 year,
You can't
1.2
just leave it.
years,
No,
yeah.
I can't do that.
That's why we come back and discuss it, you know, is this, you know, I'm not an education, you know, goal-y person right there. I don't know what goal should be, you know, in education. To me, you know, like, we all should just be 100%, you know, okay, that's not the way it's going to be, okay, you know, that's the overachiever, you know, mindset. But I know that there's steps to get there, and I don't really know what those steps are, you know, so if you're going to, I mean, I remember, and I said it before, you know, in the past, we put, you know, our goal is, you know, that you improve by 10%. Okay, whatever, what does that mean? You know, I don't know, you know, but But you guys have done your data digs already, and you've been with your,
So we've set district goals by grade level. I mean, that's what we've done in the past. There's a district goal by grade level, by content.
How much?
It depends on the grade level, because it depends on how far you are to getting everybody to that highly effective.
So I just say we have to have an incremental increase every year. I don't know what that is, but we can't just simply say, just bring a report back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you want
What
to
is your
close that
increase?
achievement gap, you don't want the same percent for everybody, because.
No, so, yeah,
Still keeps
what's
it
the
the same.
percent do you want to see? And then also, if you want to look at SMART goals, it has to be attainable. So you can't tell me by 95%.
Right,
And in
right.
some areas, you can't tell me by 10%. Because
Right.
it's not going to happen.
and
You're
that's,
saying that we come up with that percentage?
No.
No,
no.
because
I would have to go back, I would go back to every grade level, every content area, and look at, and I'm assuming you want it by all kids, not by diverse groups. So I would have to go back, I'd look at the data for all third grade in reading and see what we determine as a district goal, and then determine that could be the goal. And if we meet it, we meet it.
well, here's an idea. Okay, what if?
We're not going to meet it. I mean, we're working towards that.
if I
Some of them
could,
we do. It
we were-
depends on the percentage point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we were trained to create the new way of doing
New way of
goals,
it, yeah.
which was the old way of doing Amesland, it was very much 10% every year.
Every year,
Yeah.
no matter what.
2014, you
Yep.
had 10%
Right.
no matter what.
Yeah,
That was the law.
Yes.
right.
And so that's changed, and now there's the next generation assessments and everything, and we've all gone way down.
Yeah.
Instead of being at 90%, we're all down. So, but what we did was we created, like, for lack of a better term, crazy goals, like big goals. Like if we were to attain them, that'd be like beyond any other district
Right.
of us to attain. So we've created those goals.
Yep.
And we have those goals, but what I personally like the word incremental, because even though we've created those goals and that's what we really truly want,
We can't tell anybody to go out
we
and
just-
only achieve
there needs to be some
2%.
increments to try to even
Yeah.
get there.
So if you see to increase student achievement, and you could do incremental, but you also could say with, that shows, we always go back to research, what's the significant growth?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Significant growth, and if it's anything over 5% or whatever it is, then that's significant growth. And we base it on growth, then that's easy to do. And you have the evidence right in front of you, the bar graph, there it is, right there, you see it, whether it was met or not. That's the easiest way to do the student achievement one.
could we do that, please?
Yeah, that's very easy to do. And everybody can look at it and say, well, the goal was that you had to increase by this percent third grade reading, and look, yep, you did. As a district, we did.
Well, we're not giving, I'm not here to give, not Cindy, but the superintendent, whoever's here, just a pass. I don't want to do that.
No.
Can't do that. I won't sit here and say, just whatever, just some increment. No, there's got to be a strategic goal that says, you got there, you met it. Good, let's move forward, let's do it again. But I can't sit here and say, yeah, it's simple. Yeah, let's
It's
do it.
one,
No, I can't, that's a
Yeah,
pass.
no.
But I don't want to be in the performance pay part, and trying to decide, did you meet it, did you not meet it, did you need 100%, 90%, 70%, that's too hard.
you just want to know, was a goal met or not? Yes
Yeah.
or no?
And I don't, you tell me, can we get that, can you say, is it a 5%, increment? That should be the overarching.
As Dr.
Goal.
Peterson said, we set these huge goals, and they're our target. That's what we aim for, because we're not going to accept anything under 50%. Because then schools will say, geez, I can do 2% or I can do 3%. That's not acceptable. That's a pass. So we have them at 50%. We tell them that at the same time, to keep their morale, we don't say, yeah, you got to get to 95%, because then it's like you're defeated. Why even
Right.
try? So that's why we do that. But if we looked at the goals and say, okay, we know, look at the district goals, bring those, and just say, okay, realistically, as a district, and we do that, third grade should see this much growth in third grade. We can do that, and I can bring that back. And I think that's fair.
So you're
But
not,
you're a
that,
superintendent, setting your own goals. Oh.
No, I mean, I think it's
No, but
fair to
that's the
say that
education
you
experts
you
should.
shouldn't lower the standard for me. I mean, I shouldn't come in and say, yeah, it should be 1%, 2%. No, it has to be what we
meaty.
expect other principals to do, the same goals.
yeah, it's got to be meaty.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we need, so that it isn't us sitting back there debating, and it being subjective. It should be, we can, yes or no. But like you said, no, it shouldn't be like, oh, 1% and you got it. No, it needs to be substantial, but something that we can
We can
actually
just take
see
the
with.
district goals and say that if the district goal is to be 50%, then it's 50%, if that's what you want.
Okay. I don't want to say it should be 50%. Okay, but the reason is because when we come to evaluate you, and if it was unrealistic to be at 50%, because someone at 20%, then it comes off on you. And I don't think that that's quite,
But it's my responsibility as a superintendent to make sure I have put people in the right seats, as it is your responsibility to make sure you've put the right superintendent
That's correct.
in the district. So if I have a school that's underperforming and I'm doing nothing about it, that's my responsibility. However, if I'm doing everything I can
And we block you.
and that could happen. Or if I've done everything that I can to get that and it comes to where I need to make a move, then I got to make that move. I think if I'm not doing anything about it, then that's the
Negligence
the
on your
problem.
part, yeah.
But I think it's, you're trusting in me that I'm putting the right people in the right seats. Right now, I can say that for the people I've put in the seats, others I've inherited. So I've got to make sure I'm giving them all the support they need so they can get and meet those district goals. That's my responsibility, and I understand that responsibility, and I accept that responsibility. So I'm comfortable with I'm comfortable with any percent, because you're talking about performance pay and evaluation. If you're looking at, and that's just one component of it, really that's what we're talking about is performance pay. And the evaluation is other pieces on that, like educational leadership, all these things, whether they're a lot or not, all of these things are important in an organization and helping an organization to move forward, all of those components. It just happens to be a lot. It isn't any evaluation. Look at the teacher evaluation. Have you read that?
Yeah.
It puts you to sleep. So remember, that's that humor goal I got. On that one.
Write it down.
So it's all those pieces, but I don't ever want to, and I will never be a superintendent that gets a pass. I'm not asking for a pass. I think that my goal should be as high as a principal's goals or any other, or a teacher's goals or anybody else's. I should work twice as hard as anybody else because I am the superintendent and that's my responsibility. So if I look at those goals, Mr. Baumann, I tell you this is what we say is the district goal, and if the district meets it, it's best for kids.
Well, so I hate to do a performance evaluation where you either met it or you did not, because I'm looking here at the annual goals and objectives, the rating scale, and so it's pretty obvious. Let's just say we're in the room now, we're talking about the performance pay, and it's pretty obvious whether or not they're achieving it. They haven't achieved it, but they're getting there. You know when someone's getting there. So right here it says, unsatisfactory progress, needs more progress, satisfactory progress towards goal, exceeded expectation of goal. So I don't know that we should do a got there, yes or no. Because there are in-betweens. And Cindy just suggested, if I'm not doing anything about it, then yeah, I'm never going to get there. But if I've made changes and we're incrementally getting there.
You're talking about performance.
Yeah, performance pay.
And I'm not going to make
It can't just be a yes
excuses,
or
but
no
it's a
binary.
moving target because I have
Yeah.
no control over what the state says. The state is going to determine whether we're highly effective or not based on whatever formula they choose. I could show that kids have grown all one academic year, and the state may say that's not enough, and you haven't as a district. So, those are all those moving parts that come with it. And I just think we need to, the rating scale is there for a purpose. as the superintendent, you're either exceeding, you're satisfactory, you need progress, or you're unsatisfactory. If you're unsatisfactory, you probably shouldn't be sitting in the seat.
That's correct.
That's reality.
The other way is we're binary, it's like on, off, it's either you met or you didn't. So, well, she didn't meet it, he or she didn't meet it, but there's evidence or demonstration that,
We're moving towards it.
And that's what on the first one, on the strategic goal, where it says increase student academic achievement, I can, like, if I was the superintendent, if this was my second year in superintendency and we were having this conversation, my evaluation, I would bring you the data you saw in the presentation that showed over the last 3 years, as the assistant superintendent, I increased your student achievement significantly. That's evidence. So that's how you would get to those things. So, yeah, but if you want a percent on student achievement, I can come back with the percentage, and it will be a realistic percentage, and what it should be. And then when you go to evaluate me on that strategic goal for student achievement, I'm either going to be a 1 through a 4.
well, I think it needs to be that, like, what's our student achievement growth today? We can probably develop next year's right now.
Yeah, we have the goals already. And I can bring those back.
Like the ones
And then what
underneath
you
your
would do
overarching.
for each grade level we got to think about K1, 2, but we have those. It's a different formula or a different assessment. You would just say, well, overall, when you look at all this data, it's satisfactory progress toward the goal or it's exceeding expectations. For example, if you just break it down to a classroom level teacher or a principal, and they had a 39% in a third grade achievement, that's huge in reading. That's huge incremental growth for someone, because 5% increase is significant. 39% is wow, and we have that in the district. So that would be an exceed. Satisfactory, well, you did show some improvement. It's at, 4%. That's probably satisfactory. It's not exceeding anything. So you would determine that.
So what if we were to say best demonstrated by utilizing or using the state's data? So every year they give us that data. So if we said best demonstrated by using that as our instrument.
You could make it off the AZ Merit data. You can make it off the benchmark. You can the new benchmark, or you can make it off AZ. For the 3rd through 8th, for K2, you're going to have to choose something else, which would have to be off, I would recommend benchmark data, because that's all we really have other than Dibble's data. Benchmark? Rolling assessments, yeah. I'm thinking of district assessments,
Do you
yeah.
think benchmarks are a clearer picture of?
Well, so far, we've been able to show that we are aligned with AZ Merit. When you see AZ Merit results, they're pretty much aligned to where our 3rd quarter benchmarks were. I would probably recommend you would use AZ Merit, because you as a district, we will be, as a district, eventually we will see that that letter grade as a district based off AZ Merit. I would think you would use AZ Merit. And I'm comfortable with that. I can bring those back. The rolling assessment, we need to think about that, because that's a little, that's a lot different.
Let me change gears to another one here under strategic goals, evidence, and it says marketing the district. Doesn't have a period, but really it is. So I would ask to market the district to accomplish what? Employment? What do we marketing the district? What are we trying to
marketing the district in the sense that to increase student enrollment, to retain highly effective staff, teachers and administrators.
Best demonstrated by.
Yeah, we've increased enrollment. You know what? Boy, that's a big goal.
So that's how I'd like to see those best demonstrated by, and then have X behind it. You just answered the marketing one there.
Yeah, it's by, and it's not by necessarily increasing student enrollment, because demographic study tells you that's not going to happen for so many years. But what are we doing? For example, this year, what we did, something we've not done, I don't know when the last time it was done, but not since I've been here, is we did advertising on Spanish radio, and that's been out this week. So that's a way we're marketing the district that way, those types
What are
of
the
things.
results of that, right?
Yeah, you know, maybe,
what I was gonna say.
yeah, you know, how do we know? But that's what we're doing. We also, another marketing strategy we're doing this year is the dual language program. Are we going to get, you know, enough kids, or will that program, once it's up and running, we'll have the program next year at 2 sites. Will we market it well enough that we will be able to take it to the east side of the district and have 2 more programs? Those types of things would be evidence of marketing the district in that.
I just go back what Sarah said. I think that really what the conversation's evolved around is strategic goals have to have strategic demonstrations of evidence that you accomplished it.
But isn't that what you do when you come to us by November 30th, and you give us a report out on your strategic goals in open session, and then you tell us what... Here's what I did too. Yeah, here's the evidence.
Based on, those would be my...
So we don't come up with all of that. You need to tell us how you did that.
So
Yeah,
do,
you just have the goal, and I tell you, here's how I think I met the goal,
Right.
and then that's up to you to
She
determine
does that
whether I
in
met it or
open
not.
session.
but do we want the strategic goal to be that much? You know?
What'd you say? You don't want the strategic goal to be that much?
No, she's asking.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, to me, it should just be simpler, you know, for goal number 1. You know, so instead of having all of that, student achievement, and then...
Increase student achievement is what you're saying.
Yeah, instead of, and then the evidence that's underneath it.
Well, is that just was that just,
The draft.
yeah, like a sample,
Well-
you know, this is what you should be looking at. This is the kinds of things that would back that up. But really, the goal number 1, that would be up to the superintendent to come to us and tell us how they achieved that goal number 1. What is the evidence? Doesn't necessarily have to fall under that, but what is the evidence?
Well, all right, is that what you're saying? I mean, but like I'm saying, like, to me, it's just simpler.
So what if it said, Jess, for example, develop a highly effective organization aimed at improving student performance and advancing academic achievement, period.
Period.
Best demonstrated by, and so I disagree with you where you say we're not going to ask her how to demonstrate. Best demonstrated by X, you bring back.
But
the
my demonstration of that could be different than yours, so I don't see where that...
That's why we're a board. We decide, we're asking her through the board, this is how you best demonstrate it. She brings back the demonstration.
And then and she said, okay, I'm going to come back with a percentage. And to me, I'm like, okay, that's fine, you know, that's
Best
it.
demonstrated.
And then you don't have to have, 16 demonstrations to me, 1, so I'm good, As long as it, comes back to us and there's, that you can adjust it if we need it, or.
I just feel if you can prove to me that you, in some way, shape, or form, that you achieved goal 1, however that was, I'll decide at that time, or we'll decide at that time as a board if she, reached that goal. But I don't think she should change the wording of the goal. This is her goal.
I'm comfortable if we want to develop a highly effective organization, or just improve student, increase academic achievement,
I would just
increase
leave it
community awareness, and sustain financial solvency. If it's that simple, you just want it that simple, I'm fine with that. And then if you don't want evidence, the reason I put evidence really is for me, because when you're evaluating me and you're going to tell me goal number 1, Cindy, you didn't meet it, I'm going to ask you evidence by what? I'm going to ask you that question. I take my evaluation seriously. And so I'm going to say, you tell me, Mrs. Smith, why I didn't get whatever it is, excellent rating on number 1. Tell me what evidence you have that shows I didn't meet that. And then you're going to say, because student achievement went backwards, it didn't go forward, right?
It has to be there.
Well, that's what she would do when she comes to the board. And
I would show, here's mine.
No, but I think what we're saying to eliminate that confusion, so there is not subjectivity, is here's
Just
the
say
real
that.
simple goal,
So develop
and
a-
here's what you're going to bring back for the evidence to demonstrate it, and then we're all on the same page.
Yeah,
We-
so increase student achievement, increase community awareness, and sustain GSD financial solvency.
And, even for sustained GSD financial solvency, it's like, what's important this year? Pass that bond and that
Yeah,
override.
that's it.
The end,
The
know?
end.
That's your proof, right there. Boom. That's your evidence.
You demonstrated by,
And to me, it's like community awareness, to me, it's like, okay, your evidence is participating and visible, but to me, it's more than just being visible in the community.
No, that's just an example.
Well, I know,
yeah.
but to me, it's like, okay, having parents in here, in our district office or in the schools,
It's like we've-
improving these coffee talks so that there's really an agenda or something,
Right.
I mean, just.
Meaningful.
Yeah, that it's meaningful.
When we have a
So-
family night at a site, that it's 99% participation. When we have an event here, we tried last year, well, the last couple of years, we've done you've attended them, the math family nights here at central office, the kindergarten registrations here at central office, it's those types of things. My intent would be, it would be district-wide.
I believe that if the board isn't pushing the envelope to the superintendent, we are leaving it up to the superintendent to do so. I'm not saying that you won't, but we're just leaving it up to you to do that. And that's not our role. Our role is to ensure. So,
Yeah, so to me, community awareness is like, we've put a lot of money into this PLC, so to me, you're going to make sure that, in these coffee talks, that parents know that, what, your kids should be able to know this and that, and their teacher, so that it's all connected, together, say, well, look, this is what we're doing in there, and they should be having interventions, they should be having, whatever direction that you're giving them, like we should be having coffee talks that, or the PTA's talking about a bond and an override, just, I mean.
So I would probably change number 2 to engage community groups in the educational process, because that's really what that is. It's making them understand, it's making them understand, like you said, during those coffee talks, here's what your child needs to do to be successful at their grade level. Here's what we need to do as, I get that.
And
Okay.
what would be the evidence? Just participating as a visible part of the community?
Well, that engage the community groups, that I'm making sure that if there's, like, for example, we have many partnerships that come into volunteer in schools, those types of
So you would
partnerships.
come to us and you would give us the evidence?
I just give you what those were.
So that basically would be with all three of us?
Raising readers comes into every school district, every school, those types of things would be the evidence of.
So all three of your goals would, the evidence would be what you delivered, what you tell us, basically?
Yeah, but we're going to know
You
what
would
that
see that out.
expectation is going to be
You would see
ahead
that
of
out
time.
in the schools. You'll know if student achievement, the only way you're going to know student achievement is obviously when we get the benchmarks. That's a little different. But if we are seeing, what you'll see through when I give you the board updates, you'll see that there was so many events held at districts, so many events held at school sites that were inviting organizations or community members into the classrooms or into the schools. That's what you would see.
I wouldn't take off the resource piece unless.
No, that's really important to me, yeah.
And then you could, simple as best demonstrated by providing the board with the list of resources provided to families in fiscal year 17. Because we're not really asking you, I still think we need to tell you how to best demonstrate that. So, for example, the partnerships best demonstrated by bringing the board 5 new partners you've created.
And I think part of our other goal or priorities were, to retain our staff. What's going on over here should be be evidenced in here. It's like, what are we doing? We had these community, lunches, things like that, or the support, or just.
Well, this whole week with new teachers, those types of things. So that's where it comes in, employing highly qualified staff and modeling that. So that's where that comes in. But yeah. We have a lot of things that we do through the health pieces that we do. We have a lot of weekend events that we do with teachers that we help to build them. We do a lot of social events for teachers so that we can retain them,
I
A lot of educational support given to them through mentor teachers in classrooms on the academic side.
I think if you have something in mind that you would like to see evidence of, then you ask at that time. Did you do this or did you do that? But I think to try and list the evidence, evidence by, that's,
Yeah, but that's not fair to her, though,
Well,
to
I
do
mean,
that at the time when
it's
we're
more
listening
fair
to
to
it.
her because she knows more about how to achieve that. I mean, once she comes up with everything and says, this is how I achieved this goal, or this is the evidence, and then you're thinking, well, there's a piece missing there, then you ask her, about that piece.
Yeah, that's why we should have that conversation now, so that when we get
But
to that
I don't-
evaluation process, we're ready.
I don't know what half of it would be unless she were to tell me.
So let's just take this, because I've heard it before. So, Mr. Goddard-Jones, please demonstrate to me how you reach it. And then a board member will say, well, you should have mentioned that in the goals when we established.
No,
No, that's what happens. So here's another thing that the board can do. We can put down how you best demonstrate it, or we can ask you to bring it back to us how you're going to best demonstrate, and we agree with you. So there's two ways. We can tell you how to do it, or we can just agree with you. But I don't think we just leave it up to conversation in a public meeting.
well, she has to deliver in a public meeting.
No, I get that.
Yeah, but she's already going to know what it is that she's going to deliver to us. And we will have already agreed that okay, we accept that that's going to be our evidence. And she's going to come to that meeting and be able to present it and be like, okay, that's what we asked, We agreed that was going to prove the circumstances, how we did.
Well, I'll agree to disagree, so.
But I think there's three of us that agree.
Agree.
I don't know much of that, so.
We disagree, but that's. But I can accept from Cindy bringing back here, these are the 5 goals, and I'm suggesting that I best demonstrate it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you agree? Yes,
Yes.
yes. No, take that one out. I can do that.
And
I'm
add
good with that.
number 6 if you need to,
I'm okay with that. If that's acceptable by the board, I'm willing to take Cindy's suggestions and agree with them or disagree with them.
Yeah, because to me, it takes away that moving target element.
Well, let's go back to goal number 1, because the evidence is I'm going to market the district, I'm going to increase student achievement, I'm going to increase staff retention. So what do you want added to that? Because that's what I would tell you I was going to do. Increase student achievement. If we're going to change it to not develop a highly effective organization, I'm just going to increase student achievement. That piece, I'm going to bring back the assessment pieces. So I'll take all that out. And then the other one, engage community groups to the educational process, providing families with resources and promote programs within the community. So I'm going to attend coffee talks. Ensure coffee talks take place at sites.
But, okay,
That's micromanaging principles, as I'm going to say that.
I wouldn't say you should be attending coffee talks, but,
But I'm going to tell principals, because my goal is I need to do this, and if coffee talks is one of them, then not all of them have coffee talks.
Right.
well, that's why I think it should come back to us. I'm like, are coffee talks even worth the principal's time, or even worth, so if we set this goal, is it really, then we come back, is it really worth the time? Okay, so if it's not worth the time, what's a better, option?
See, I don't think that's our decision. She knows more about that than we do. I mean, if she feels that it's not, necessary, she'll do what is, and then she can tell us why.
But if she sets, at first, she's like, okay, my goal is, okay, I'm going to attend all these coffee talks. Okay, well, guess what? I just found out that this isn't really worth my time. Then it should come back, and say, this goal should change. And that's why these things keep on coming back to us. Like I've gone to, so she'd be like, okay, now I've gone to all these coffee talks and I found that they're not worth my time. They're not even worth the principal's time. Okay, we're not even going to do them. We're going to do
That's why I
this
don't think we
instead.
should be listing, evidence. That's, as she goes throughout the year and tries to achieve that goal, she'll, come up with the evidence that she needs to have.
No, but even with student achievement, that for us as a board, that is what we need. And you need to know what the target is. We know that the state is just so cooperative with that aspect. But in order for us to be an effective board and to evaluate her fairly, we need to know exactly what the goal is and what the outcome should be. Where's the target? So that she knows what she's trying to strive for. She does better, awesome. Then she's going to be, of course, outstanding. But everybody's got to know, what is that end picture? Where do I at least need to get to at the very minimum? That's where I need to get to. If I go beyond that, that's great. We're going to, of course, stay outstanding. But to say, because we have had that happen before in past times, where, well, I didn't feel that was evidence to me, or I felt you should have brought this to me, or, it's like, that's not right either.
I think, if you want to say, okay, community awareness, ask Monica, what is her definition of community awareness? What would she want as evidence? And then, then that would help, Cindy be able to, come up with some ideas. What would your idea be of community awareness? Is it evidence, just by having her out in, Kiwanis?
I think that if we say community awareness,
Oh, turn your mic on.
if we say community awareness, I think our superintendent's pretty intelligent enough to figure that out. She knows what her schedule is. She knows what's going to be available to her to be to be aware in the community. But
She's the one that created the goal.
I agree.
But then how are you going to measure it? That's
She'll tell us what she did. And then
Here, let me tell you how
we're-
I see it. This is the way I see it. If she comes to us and says, hey, look, this strategic goal, I was in the community. Bam. Here I was at this coffee talk. Or here I was at the Kiwanis Club. Or in this, I was with a Glendale Chamber. And I was talking about the merits of our new dual language program. That to me is all acceptable. And she wouldn't be superintendent if she didn't know how to decipher that herself.
Okay, but then you're going to leave it up to interpretation, because to you, you want her there. To me, I want parents in the schools, and I want parents part of our community. So then then she's going to be like, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And she's going to be
But the
having...
coffee talk would fit that bill. If there are students, and she's gone to coffee talk at Coyote Ridge, at Horizon, at Mensendick, and Jack. And so she went to 4 coffee talks, and she has pictures of her talking and engaging with parents. And she has, maybe a parent comes in and says, hey, I'd like to thank Superintendent Sagata Jones for coming, for talking with me about this issue. And maybe she wouldn't have that person come in. Maybe the person would come in on their own willy-nilly because they want to thank her for being there. I see your point. I really do see your point, because we are all probably going to have different definitions. But I think that if she brings this to us, and if we ask for a quarterly report, for example, maybe the one report's going to be community organizations. Maybe another report's going to be PTO or coffee talk, or setting up something for an advisory council, parent advisory council.
Yeah, or board academy, or whatever.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like, for example, I guess the easiest one for me, like last night, I attended the Coffee with the Cops. So providing families with resources and parenting programs within the community. So from that, attending that event last night, they were, if you're not attending one, the officers are there. And the community has their ear. So any concerns that are happening within the community, and it's just a one-on-one type of thing. It's very informal. But also at the same time, what the officers wanted was Glendale in October was a save the date, because they're going to do their annual gain event. That to me is I think I have a responsibility to get that information out to the parents in this community because it's going to keep their neighborhood safe. That's, to me, would be evidence of providing families with resources and promoting the community, because that's something that is one of those events that it's not necessarily hosted by us, it's hosted by the community, but we reap the benefits from safe and orderly neighborhoods
Right.
because our kids are safe. So it's those things that I need to connect myself to with the community with, so that I know that I'm providing that information to, we know that the home environment plays a huge effect on student performance. And if they're in safe environments at home, we know that there's a likelihood they're going to feel safe when they come to school and they're not going to be distracted. And this game thing is one way for parents to receive information. It's just stuff like that. To me, it's pretty simple to do.
So if the superintendent said to you, Monica, yeah, I increased community awareness, I sent 4 principals to 4 events, and they reported back to me, great. Is that acceptable, or would you rather say best demonstrated by the superintendent having attended at least 4 community events in the year? She comes back and says, I attended 6 events throughout the year and sent 4 principals to events to
different community
Yeah.
events.
Well, I
Yes, that's
attended
what I'm saying. You leave it up to
active
her.
shooter
You just-
professional development, and I shared with every community member, every parent in the community, new procedures for lockout and lockdown protocol within the district to keep their children safe. It's those type, I mean, I can come up with the evidence. That's
That's what I'm saying to you
Is
by,
what do you want?
By us creating the best way to demonstrate and by the superintendent doing, there's a difference. I sent 4 principals, and if you state the demonstration is best demonstrated by the superintendent attending at least 5 events within the year, then when she reports back, it's, I exceeded that and went to 7. That's great demonstration of reaching that goal. Otherwise, you're going to sit in public and say, I don't think you really demonstrated that. You sent people, but you didn't go. And that's what I don't want to do. That's what's gonna happen.
Right.
That will happen.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
But you know,
yeah,
I'm not,
yeah.
I can see with a simple parameter like that, I can understand. If we collectively say, we want to make sure you're speaking with parents, we want to make sure you're speaking with community groups, we want to make sure that you're reaching out.
but I think that goes back to what you said before. That's why we hired her. We wouldn't have hired her if we didn't think she already had those.
Well, I'm not the first superintendent of Glendale Elementary School District. I'm not the first, nor will I be the last. So what has been the practice in the past? What was your evidence?
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Lucky me.
So we're all trying to work together.
and that's, unfortunately you have, us wanting
But
that.
to give her specifics like that, that's kind of micromanaging the way I look at it. I think if, as mentioned, giving quarterly updates on her strategic goals, and then if you say, well, you know what, there's several schools that don't have PTOs, and that bothers me because that brings people, you can email her or something, say, how are we doing on PTOs or whatever, and then she can work on that aspect or whatever. But to set out this, these are going to be, this is going to be the evidence that we're going, to me, that's kind of micromanaging. We're here for the overall effect, and I want to know if our student membership has increased. I want to know how our kids are doing. I want to know if we have parental involvement. And I just want you to tell me, do we or don't we? And what have you done to get there? I don't want to give you specifics. I don't want to micromanage anybody.
Well, let me ask
That's
Mrs.
not-
Segato
that's
Jones
not
a
my
question.
job.
So let me ask Mrs. Segato Jones a question. If you're too uncomfortable to answer, just say I'm too uncomfortable to answer. So how do you expect your staff to best demonstrate to you that they're fulfilling their job? So I want to know if you're micromanaging or not. So how do they just come and tell you, yeah, the budget's good, we're going to be good. Yeah, I'm real comfortable that we have a balanced budget, and yeah, we're good. Is that all you accept?
No,
How do
they
best
say,
demonstrate?
they write their goals, And then we sit down with their goals, and then they have evidence of or indicators, and they say, this is how I'm going to do that, and I agree or disagree, or I tell them, I think something else you need to put in there is this.
That's what
We
we
have
want.
that
But
conversation.
they write,
It's their
they write
goals.
the evidence.
No, he just said that she tells, I give them.
No, they write their goals, they bring them to me, I look at them and we agree or not. If I think something should be tweaked, or I think perhaps it's too high of a goal, or if it's not attainable, or if it's too low of a goal, it's those conversations, and then they're held to those goals.
Yeah, so I don't think it's any different.
Madam President, members of the board, can I offer a different perspective?
Please.
When you talk about the coffee talks, when I think of, and I'm just gonna say Cindy, of all her involvements, I know that there's a city council member who does an annual event at Cabela's, right? And she's engaging in that community, interacting with those community members. There's an event on Saturday that I know she's attended in the past, it's going to attend on Saturday on Stuff with Us. That's providing resources, that's engaging your communities. When you look at goal number 2, providing families with resources, it's not just a pantry or information, but when you think of, I think it was the last board meeting when we had, I think, significant conversation about how many more schools are going to either to no free meals. I think we're at 14 or 15 this next year. That's the district through the superintendent is providing a resource to families that they didn't have in the prior year, or it's getting better than the prior year. And so you may want to look at that collectively as well. Maybe it's not just the coffee talks. Maybe it's the Christmas parade that her and her team put a float together and had hundreds of family members there and tons of kids attending there. I mean, I would encourage you to look at that collectively as well and not isolate to one or two things. For whatever it's worth, in my opinion, I do believe she's been extremely engaged in just those areas that we briefly have talked about, plus other things that I'm sure I'm not even aware of. And so to say that she has not been engaged within the community, I don't think that's fair either, because I just listed some of those. And to pull that float, even after Christmas, that's there's a lot of time and effort that goes in there. And she had students there, she had families there, and she had staff there. So perhaps looking at it collectively as well, is she fulfilling her requirements, which is being
I don't
involved?
think anybody said that she wasn't. What I would accept is verbiage that states best demonstrated by a report from the superintendent annually, biannually, that demonstrates you achieve those goals, period.
That's what it says in the,
So,
in the evaluation.
now that's not
in the
specifically,
regulation.
but
No,
it's
but-
mandating you to bring back this report that
So I'd
demonstrates
bring back
collectively in there.
a report, and listing, as Mr. Berrigan said, the flow, the AZ Merit 100% group kids. It's those types of things which engage the community.
Yeah.
Or in the board update,
Yeah.
when you say what you did, you say this is, specific to, goal number 1, which was, yada, yada. And
Yeah, still not necessarily happy with
yeah,
that.
just so you're reporting on a continual, basis what you've done. And then if there's something that, I don't know, that a board member feels that needs to be a part of that evidence, then, tell her. But I don't think we need to list anything.
I still think.
To me, that's micromanaging. That's requiring too much knowledge, or assuming that we have a lot of knowledge in that area, which, I don't know, maybe,
No, but I mean, on average, how many engagements, activities, sharing of information do you do in a week that, does, whether it's an outside organization, a business, or community, on average, that you can just think off the top
I
of your
just
head?
started, that's not a fair question.
Well,
Ask those ones.
If we're
It's not a
gonna,
fair question.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, what did Joe do in the past?
yeah.
I mean, because being here for a year and a half, I don't have a big scope of what he did in the community. So maybe the discussion needs to be, what did he do and what did he not do that we preferred that he would have done?
That's what we're saying, spell it out.
she
Best
created the
demonstrated by.
goals. It's up to her to tell us how she's going to achieve those.
Okay, so I'm
Not
asking her to spell them out.
We didn't, and I don't think she needs to. So. I mean, she can. but I'm not going to spell them out for
We're
you.
just saying, like the evidence right here, participating as a visible part of the community. We're just saying that I have a different definition than Brenda has, and I have a different definition than, all three of you. I'll make it, and then when we go in there and we go to, evaluate her, and I'm going to think she should have had, like I said, that she's supposed to have families involved, and she's going to think she should have had the community involved. He's going to think, that, whoever else should have been involved, and then it doesn't work. So she's going to be like, I came up with this evidence. I did the parade. I did this. I did that. And it's not going to meet my definition, but it met hers, and then one of them met his, and then it's going to be like, then it's going to be the fight. And say, okay,
One.
okay, so what? So your evidence is okay. So to me, it's like, I'm going to be out in the schools. I'm going to be out in the community. You guys come up, the evidence. And then she can bring us the, and then, maybe we need to discuss, okay, we want you to spend, more time, bringing, working with the families and having the just whatever, I don't really have, have a goal. Like, where do you think it's more important?
Okay, so maybe the thing is this, so you have one-on-one with your staff when you go over your goals, and maybe you suggest to them, this is what I would like to see. And then you figure it out from there to your staff.
Why don't you have one-on-ones with
That's-
Sarah and one-on-one with
And
Brenda?
and even if we all say, at one point, hey, I would like to see your community involvement include this. Just an email, a one-on-one, and at that point, if I tell her, hey, I'd really like to see you at a community garden on a Saturday, I won't say that on a Saturday, but I'd like to see you at a community garden participating with the class the second grade class at Mensa Dick. I know they have this great thing. And you take that into consideration as, okay, so you want to see me on a weekend doing something in the community with the kids and the parents. And then maybe you'll say, hey, I'd like to see you doing, I don't know, playing golf. I'm just pulling something out
Fundraiser,
here.
yeah.
And so you'll see, okay, you'll hear she wants something from the community, she wants you at the fundraiser, and at that point, then you can say, okay, I'm going to look at the community stuff I can do, I'm going to look at the fundraisers I can attend, and figure it out from there. So I think if we're going to try to spell something out, I think we can make it vague enough like that, and then you could figure it out from
Watch
there.
what we said, that's demonstrated by attending 5 community events in the district.
I'm not going to put a
I don't
number
care
on
which one you
anything.
did, just
So
name
if I,
5 or exceed
so
them.
does community, so I understand community, so I would attend Rotary, I would
There
attend
you
Coffee
go.
with the Cox, I would attend Kiwanis, I would attend a
Done
city
deal.
council meeting. I mean, I've done all those already. So, and I'm not doing them to do them. I think that's how I get to know the community. That's why it was important to me to go last night to, I hate that term, coffee with the cops. That's, I don't like that term. I want to propose omelets with officers, but I'm not there yet. I'm sorry. I have brothers that dedicate their lives to that. I don't like that term. But anyway, it's not because I'm trying to check them off a list for performance pay. The least of I think you know how I feel about pay. I think I've demonstrated that. It's because I want to really know this community, and I need to know what is happening that's sitting on the border between 67th and Camelback, because I've got schools that sit on that border. So I want to know what's happening there that's crossing our border, so I've got to meet with Phoenix PD and Glendale PD to know, what do I know that is happening in the neighborhood that only the officers know that they're going to share with the community, so I can come back and tell my principals, hey, privately we have a meeting, there's a huge gain situation that's happening over here at this area, we just need to be on high alert. I need to know that. I need to know if there's a new housing development. I need to attend those meetings so that I can come back and say, Mike, do you know there's a new charter being built? There's a new housing development. All those things, those meetings I attend, because to me that's community awareness, and that's also coming back, sharing that with my principals and assistant principals, who they share with their coffee talks, or they share with their PTAs, and they share with their staff, so that the community knows that that's what's happening, and they're always aware of those things. That's what I see that role as doing.
We can either give them to you, or I can agree with the ones you have or disagree with the ones you have here, so that's where I am.
Explain.
I would do one of two things. This board provide ways that our superintendent will demonstrate to us that she's reached these goals, or we can use the evidence as how she's going to demonstrate it and agree on them or disagree and remove them. So I'm willing to do that today because we're not getting anywhere. So what is it? Are we going to write new ones and give them to her and say this is how you best demonstrate? Or am I going to take 2 or 3 of these and say those are the ones I agree with?
Okay, because Mr. Adama, these, like, when I wrote them, I wrote them as broad, just
Oh, okay.
because I didn't
Then bring
pinpoint
it
them.
back. That's what
So
I'm
if
saying.
you want me to go back and give as
Consider it,
some
yeah.
concrete things that you could know, that, because if my interpretation or your interpretation is different, I can come back and say, here's some concrete things to look for, and when you read my annual or biannual or quarterly report, whatever that's going to be, you should say, you know what, one of her goals was she was going to be out there engaging families or providing resources, and I've seen that she's not been in the community at all. She hasn't been at an event for Kiwanis, she hasn't been at Rotary, she didn't attend whatever, you know, then that's evidence that I haven't met
How
that.
many goals are
But
there?
if you were to come to us quarterly and tell us this is what you, and we didn't see something, then at that time,
You could
We
say,
could say,
yeah, and sometimes,
we
and
need
you
to see
determine
this.
quarterly or whatever, sometimes quarterly, depending on events.
Right.
Yeah.
What's out there, it's not gonna be.
So how
Right,
many goals
right,
are there? Just bring us back how you're going to best demonstrate it. We'll agree or disagree. Like I said earlier, we can write them or you can write them.
Well,
I'm
can't
willing to
she
agree.
just give us quarterly reports? She can come to us with a
wanna
quarterly
see
report,
it.
she'll give us the evidence, how she's reaching that, and if there's something that you think needs to be in there, then you tell her at that
Yeah,
time.
I like to see them come back and then say, okay, move forward on them. And we'll meet with you in the next 3 months and we'll see if you got there or not.
Well, I'm not
And
gonna
I think
do it
Monica said, you know, or you did, I don't remember who said it, you know, meet with us individually. I really think you should, you know, and you're going to get a better idea where each one of us are, you know, in these things.
Right, and
Now,
mindset.
just keep in mind that that's I mean, you can set aside, you know, 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but if that goes into a long time, that you're taking her away from, you know, running the district, and so, because that can get kind of, maybe you might want to send her an email of what you think these should be according to you.
If I may propose, perhaps I go back and just make it very clear, or change the goal or shorten the goal, so it's increase student achievement and provide families with resources and sustain financial solvency, and then put some artifacts that are there. I could send that out in a board update, and then we could schedule a one-on-one for those that, you know, want to do that. I'm happy to do that. I will, and then we could go that way. I think it's, as my question was before, you know, what have you done before? I'm not the first superintendent, and the response was, well, that's the problem. It's something that we've just struggled with, and I don't think it's unique to GESD. We just struggle with it. And so I'm happy to work through that. And also, it was always, President Wilson, the intent, and I think I'd ask for, once we could get through transitions, that I meet individually with board members, so that, or 2 members at a time, or whatever that be, just so I would know, you know, a little bit more about you as individuals and what you would like to see. So I'm happy to do that. If that will help make this process clearer for in the future, I'm very happy to do that for you.
And I would-
Yeah, let's do 2 at a time, so that,
But I want to, I want to just interject there, because, Marianne, I've heard you say this time after time. If you want the superintendent to do that, just know that that superintendent's not going to have time to do what they really need to do. That's micromanaging. Let the superintendent decide whether or not she can meet with us or not, and how long she can meet with us. If I call for a meeting to meet with the superintendent, she says only 30 minutes, I'm going to be respectful of that. You know, I mean, to tell me that you know, just, I mean, if you want her to meet with you, just know you're taking away from somebody. That's discouraging me to meet with my superintendent, and I don't appreciate that.
Well, not you, I was just giving guidance, that's all. I
I
wasn't
accept that.
saying that's what you need to do.
But I just want the superintendent to know that if a board member calls and wants to meet with you, and she has the
That might
ability
be
to say
part
yes
of
or
our,
no, you know?
yeah, that might be part of our commitments, but anyway.
So I would ask that if you could just let me get school started,
Yeah.
if I could open up school, and then I will give you through a board update, the draft of what this is, and then at that time, I will have Ms. Powell arrange for board members to come in pairs. That's fine. It's fine with me to do that. And
We shouldn't be limited to that, are
no, whatever you want to come as, I guess, we can do that. There's not enough pairs anyway, so. There's not enough pairs anyway. I can do math.
And I want to say real quick, looking at the evidence here, you did 3 of these today at lunch. So you recognize the staff and the programs today at lunch and the accomplishments. You recognize the governing board and their support. And you've been marketing the district with your own Twitter account. I mean, that wasn't today, but you've done it.
The day's not
And-
over.
But that's good. I mean, I haven't checked Twitter today, so maybe you were
Okay.
tweeting today, I don't know. But, I mean, out of the 5 of these, there's 3 that I've seen just today. And increasing academic achievement, you've been doing that without being our superintendent, being assistant, and increasing staff retention. I don't know how many we have open today, but I think last board meeting we were 25. So, you know, you're working on these already without us having to sit here already. So,
No, but it helps us as a board to, when we know what they are and we're looking at them on a regular basis, you're like, oh yeah, she did do this, and like you just said, you
Right.
perfectly demonstrated that. So it does make it like, we know that this is going on, and if we're
Right.
seeing it, you know, especially the student achievement piece, we know that it's, you know, high priority to us, and that should be something discussed every meeting. It always should. If that's our priority, we should be talking about it every meeting. And that's going to be more, you know, evidence of, yes, we are working on this, this is what's happening.
Okay, so we have a consensus that you just will be meeting with board members to further get a direction on that.
Okay.
All right, so we are at C, the update protocol. I think this was something that was brought up at one of our meetings, that the board update.
we're a B.
Performance pay.
Performance pay.
Oh, I thought we were going to wait for,
Are we going to wait for performance pay until you see the goals?
we're almost going to have to.
No, I think
But
we
let
can
me
have some
ask
comments.
Let me ask this, the performance pay, if we were to follow this measurement criteria here, is this based on last year's? Or no, I should say, is the evaluation based on the last year, or do we move ahead? Because in November, you're going to be giving us your goals, how you've achieved your goals, an update on your goals. And then we're to evaluate you by November 30th, which means you've been a superintendent for only a few months. So how
Now
does
technically,
how
wouldn't
does
that be Joe's evaluation the prior year? That would be his.
But we already
No,
did
not
his.
necessarily, because I think when you do the performance pay, you look at the last year, but when you do the performance evaluation, it's based on all data up to that point.
Up to that point, okay.
I think
But
for
then
these
the
performance
following
indicators.
November would be for the whole year.
According to my contract, I mean, because that's what you want to pay attention, because that's where the performance pay comes in. It's in the contract. According to what the contract says, if I understand the contract, that the superintendent's entitled to performance pay up to whatever it is, not to exceed 20% or whatever that is, or whatever the amount is, then that performance pay has to be paid If you elect to do performance pay or whatever that percentage is or the dollar amount is, that has to be paid in that year. So by June 30th, I would have to have my performance pay, as you do other
When does
employees.
she get evaluated? Not this November coming.
That's not how it's ever been.
No.
That's how it's in the contract, though. So
Yeah,
we probably
but
need to
that's the
seek legal
problem.
counsel,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, that's how it's in the contract.
Well, that makes sense. That makes more sense than the way we've been doing it.
I think in the contract, it says that they have to set your criteria for your performance pay by June 30th.
Oh, I don't know, maybe I need to look at that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it says by June 30th, it,
We didn't look at
Yeah,
that.
it's.
We missed
I need to look at that.
Typically, the performance pay is done with the evaluation, and which it doesn't, in by policy, doesn't happen until November.
oh, okay, let me look at that, I'm sorry, I didn't look at that correctly, I must have read that wrong.
So performance pay is,
I'll look at that.
we're going to base that on what you're going to bring to us.
Well, performance pay is,
If we decide to do this.
I liked I liked the resolution. I
Did
I
you?
didn't like,
Okay.
I did like it. I like that it had administrative, which is the evaluation.
It follows the evaluation.
Yeah, and I like that it has strategic goals, which are her goals. I like that. And then down here,
like
part
that,
3
Liz.
says
I
performance
probably
goals,
didn't read
which
it
I
right.
think should be, whatever she put personal should be changed to performance. And then, but I didn't like the percentages. And-
No, we don't have to go with that.
But because I really thought, if we're doing strategic actually listed student achievement. So I thought that percentage should be higher and that the administrative standards, which like the sense of humor, whatever, should be lower. So she didn't have to be as funny for us, and, and whatever. And then, if we wanted the performance goals at 20%, but I did like, like that we had it down there and then, so we would know, like,
This section is,
Yeah, I
this
like the
section
way it
was-
follows the evaluation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The same.
but yeah, we're thinking, if as a district, our goal is, student achievement, closing the gap, then that, those strategic goals are what really kind of fall in there. And so that should be a higher percent, it should be a higher value compared to the other two areas.
Right.
I think she told me it was, so we need to ask her.
you guys,
We don't even have to include personal goals if you don't want to.
it was to me, like when she wrote on their personal, I think it should be performance instead of just change the words so that they're the same.
Performance goals.
But we should go in exec session and,
Well,
and
that's
say,
what-
is this really a performance goal or not? And
Yeah, well, I think that's
Yeah.
what it says in the
It's
regulation.
performance goals, yeah.
It says that the governing board will then meet in executive session or performance goals which may be held in executive session.
And typically, that's like after you do an
After
evaluation.
you-
Yeah.
you set
Then
the
you
per-
say,
Yeah.
here's how you performed, and then here's some things we want you to
So we
to
can
improve.
eliminate that for this evaluation.
yeah, then we should limit it. Then just come up with a percentage, for strategic and administrative, Are we good at like 60/40? Are we good at 50/50? Are we?
70/30?
Yes. What?
You saw that she had suggested.
Yeah,
performance
she's
goals.
got some there.
Yeah, and we use, I'm using terminology as we use for assistant superintendents and principals, that we refer them to personal goals, so that's why I put personal goals on there, but there would be performance.
So you want us to follow those for this one here?
We could.
We can
That's
put
up
that-
to you, yeah.
And then we can, at the evaluation, we can give her new ones at that time. So
Right.
we can include these in on this
Okay.
year's
And the
performance
performance, as I titled personal, the performance goals come from the evaluation instrument. And that's what you would be, I think in the past, is that what you've given performance goals on, is based off what happened on the evaluation?
Yes.
Yes.
On the evaluation tool?
Yes.
Okay,
pay. Okay,
okay, that makes sense.
all right, so, yeah, we can do,
So the resolution as it is how you want to keep it?
Well, except for the percentages.
we can go 60/30, 10.
Well, what, 60/30, 10? So strategic up at 60?
Yeah, 60 and then administrative 30,
And then
performance
performance?
at 10. But I mean, that's just a suggestion. right?
So, I'm sorry, 60%?
I was just suggesting
25.
that it's up to
Should be
60.
more in the performance.
20 and 20? 20 and 20?
20.
60,
With
20,
60 in
20?
the middle
Yeah.
for our district-wide ones in the
Should be
60.
more.
40,
60,
40,
20.
20.
Uh-huh.
So they want for administrative
They want
students?
20, what did you?
60, 20, 20. 60 for strategic goals, and then 20 for each of the others, administrative and performance.
Okay, so we're telling you, you don't have to be as funny and worry about it.
Yeah.
I know, that's.
You can lighten
Every
up.
tool has that. I don't know, they just,
That demonstrates the board sense of humor.
Yeah, have fun now.
Are we good with that one?
So
Yep.
then that'll come back to you guys to act on, to adopt.
All right, and then the update protocol, Ms. Smith? Is that your suggestion?
Where is that?
yes, it
Board-
was
board
how
update.
to,
There's nothing for that.
it was,
talk about
how did
board
you
update.
want to receive the board updates?
Oh, yeah, I don't, they've been inconsistent lately, so, I mean, I like getting board updates, and I don't know if we want them twice a month, do we want them once a month? But I don't think, sometimes I really feel like they're too lengthy. And
And not focused on our, sometimes it doesn't, they don't match what we're trying to get to. If it's student achievement and closing the gap, then I think it should have a little more meat there. Just to,
I think when we talk about length of that thing, I read where there was commentary between the superintendent and a board member, and it just went on. It's like, that does not need to be, and that could have just been an email to us. So I don't know that the board update needs to have, whether you and I had a conversation and the entire conversation outcome, that doesn't need to. That could
I
just
think
be
that
an
was
email.
in there because he was criticized at one point for not letting other board members know that there was a conversation about something. So I think
That's fine, but,
he put that in there so that he would cover his ground.
Took up a lot, maybe just in a separate email, if that's the way it's gonna be, but it's a different superintendent. I'm just saying, though, that used to get really lengthy, it was like, okay.
Okay, so if I wanted something in an update, this is what I want, okay? I want you to know about the events that I can attend, okay? So there you go, okay? I want to know, when I can go visit schools, because I like personally to go into the classroom. So, I'd like to have a date. Okay, the discipline reports. I would like the discipline reports, but I'd like them changed at some point, so that we have our subgroups, so that we know boy, girl, special ed, a little bit more, because just the way it comes, it doesn't give us enough information to be able to actually,
have a discussion at some
about.
point.
Yeah, so if we're talking about diversity, that's where we can, get some of our diversity in our discipline reports. I want to know about enrollment, which we already do, because, that's important, I'd like to know about, major changes, whatever they might be. I'd like to know about teacher recruitment and vacancies,
Vacancies, for sure.
yeah, and so, what's going on, in that area. And then I want to know about legislative things, that maybe that we could, work on, or that you're working on that we could help, or just whatever.
May I pause you there just a minute on the legislative? Who does our legislative? Is that Jim?
Or is
Who
that,
does all of our legislative, who tracks the legislative issues?
They come through Mike's office.
Mike, you do that?
I do review those, and I really kind of scan for the ones that I think are relevant to us.
Okay.
At least from my perspective, to really track it, like whether it's on live, on the website or attend, I can't just realistically attend and be
Right.
100% engaged, so I really kind of monitor the bills that are out there and the ones that are more relevant to us.
It's really mainly when they're in session.
Right, so from
So I would
January,
agree, put it in
from
there.
January
It's
to
not gonna,
May.
not gonna be the whole, not every update's gonna happen.
Also, ASBA doesn't,
Every week.
That is
Yeah,
true. And
but-
from the business perspective, when I think that they're topic specific to us, I do try to give a summary at least of those. And it really just kind of depends, because sometimes they're just dead in the water, but I do try to do that when I think it's relevant for us.
because ASBO as well as Guppy Mac puts out legislative updates that we just copy and paste that are important. Like we kept following for example, the one we kept following was in the instructional side was the recess bill. We kept
Yes.
following that one. And the ELL.
Yes.
ELL died, but recess went. So those we tried to give you. And the other one is the legislation, what's happening with the school letters. We try to give you pieces of those when they're relevant, like Mike does.
Well, because I think, because that is good, we do need to know that, but I think we almost need a little more real time. And the reason I say this is to help us be better at being advocates, also being that outside voice. Because ASBA sends out an alert, and says, action required, okay. But I may not necessarily know how is this, positive or negative for our district, and how better can I state that to them when I reach out to legislators to say, hey, please.
Madam President, members of the board, realistically, I could not frankly accommodate that request in real time. Because I'll tell you, just trying to manage what we're trying to do, if there's a hot topic, and mainly, capital related, classroom site, classroom site fund was obviously a big one this year.
Right.
I'm trying to think maybe two other things that maybe were on my radar, but trying to realistically be on top of those, I just can't. I personally could not do that without giving up everything else that I'm trying to do. So realistically, I just could not provide that for you. Again, I try to pick the topics that I think are the most relevant. I think you heard Cindy talk a little bit about on the recess bills. I try to point out some of the financial and business side, and just monitor those as I can. But realistically, I just could not do that. To be quite honest.
There's just so many of them.
And it happens.
Tons of them.
Right, I know.
It happens so
I know.
often. And I'll tell you, I try to monitor what's on the agenda, whether it's in the House or in the Senate.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, then there's a week too that I just can't. So realistically, I just really couldn't.
We pay a pretty hefty membership fee to ASBA, and they have a team of 3 or 4 different
Yeah.
people that do their legislative stuff exclusively, so there's no reason you shouldn't be able to reach out to them to get information about that.
No, but what I'm saying is more personal, because, we do
But
know.
I'm saying that that team should have that level of
You should be able to
information,
ask
they should
them.
know how it affects a district of our demographics.
Are you looking for how something specifically affects our kids in GESD?
Yes.
Or, so I think probably the better thing to do is, if you're looking, I'm assuming somewhat monetarily for some things.
To some degree, yeah. Some would be monetary, some would be logistics. We have the double-edged sword. We want, states demanding student achievement go up here, but then saying get your kids out here. It's like, okay, how do we balance this?
And right or wrong or different, what I focus on is anything that I feel is business perk related, specifically the stuff that I try. I mean, obviously.
And we track the educational
And if
pieces.
there's conversations about, hey, will this have a financial impact on the recess? I know we did talk about that this last legislative session.
Right.
My focus was really kind of on the business component side. And we're also part of BFRG, which is solely focused on the financial aspect of the operations. But in real time, I tried to do that. I just can't pull it off realistically.
Okay, so the question is, you must get the ASB updates like we do, yes or no?
Yeah,
Okay, so are they good enough for the needs of our district?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Cindy's
they are.
point, I think we get it from ASBA, we get it from WMAC, I get it from ASBA, I get it from FRT. I think people explain it differently, and so you do have different perspectives, without a doubt.
Okay, well, I only get it from ASBA, so if you feel like there's something different, we would, so if there's a different
You've told us.
perspective.
You've
Yeah,
told
well,
us.
I think that's my point. I think when I do think that there's something that needs to be on the board's radar, I do try to put it on the board memo as I think
Yeah.
it's relevant. But trying to manage the session on a daily basis,
Right.
I really
Okay.
can't pull that part off.
So I think maybe if there's something that comes across where you're wondering what the
Is
potential.
this really
downfall
bad for us
is,
or
then
really
bring
good?
it to
Okay.
Mike and ask him, hey, at this
Okay.
point, I saw this, how's this really going to impact us? I know what ASBA is saying, but what are your other channels saying? And I mean, I think that's a fair thing to do, is if we could ask him at that point, he could say,
And I think to the board's credit, I think someone asked this last session that ended, I think, on the extension of the proctor run, how we would benefit. And response was, we just avoided that cliff that we
Right.
were talking about
Right.
in 2020 or 2021. Well, now we just have to worry about 20 years from now, which,
A better thought, I don't know if it's a better thought, but I thought what we did the city is, we have a team that works with the League of Cities, which is our advocate, the city of Glendale. So this, every once in a while, they put on the agenda to give us an update. They just, one day they put on the agenda, so we have an update, and they're important things. You don't have to go on an update, just on the agenda, and you can just present it. So take it out of the update and just bring it to us when you feel it's necessary. Yeah, you can just do that. I don't know if it needs to be in the board update.
the only reason the board update, just to put it, it's more real time, just because it's really every other week, because it could really just change. It happens, things change so quickly.
Believe it.
So the attempt was, at least I felt that it was a little bit more real time in the board memo, but I'm happy to inform however the superintendent and board thinks best.
So if I had an update, I would also want in there, like, update on new programs. An example would be like your dual language, so I would want that, and then, obviously we have another thing, on our radar is our capital issues, and so, I would always want to, in our updates at this point, be, kept up to date on those type of things. So, those are the things that I would.
And so are we wanting to then, you're comfortable with the current format, perhaps not as lengthy, try to, when possible, and then do you still want them on the non-meeting weeks, once a month? Non-meeting weeks. So every other, as we've been doing.
I think another thing that's, been in there, sometimes, we're told, oh, we don't want you to be surprised that this is coming, so, our update's a good way to say, oh, this needs to be on your radar. So whatever, say like, is the media may come to you over this capital thing, whatever, I mean, those are the type of.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay. All right, now, as far as the governing board policy section B, I'm not sure we want to go through each one of those. Those are policies.
We had quite a few we wanted to talk about.
Maybe we need a whole workshop on that one.
No,
Probably, yeah.
if we're talking
I
about
would
a few.
think maybe we should devote a whole workshop just to, if you want to go through each one
Well,
like that.
there's a few,
then-
there's a,
few that
there's a
really
few.
weren't that anything that we found. But then we know that there's some that there should be updates that we don't have.
Well, they're policies, so you'd have to,
Yeah, there have been updates in policy that haven't been
no, I
updated.
think, have
There've
we
been some
updated
changes.
those policies?
If you're saying that there's been an update from ASBA
Or I should
that
say-
hasn't been updated, and that's because it hasn't been adopted by the board. If the board's adopted a change to the policy, it's reflected in the policy manual.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is somewhere along the way, if some of the stuff that we know that there should be changes and there should have been
Right.
changes, we're not seeing them. And
But it won't be unless you guys adopt it. We
Yeah,
can't
but-
make changes to policy without you guys adopting
I
it.
understand, okay, so here's my question then. If it's a board policy, are we, the board members, the ones responsible to say, hey, we got this policy update that does impact our board level, and so we need to ask for that because,
For example, board member, I just turned the page, board member oath of office. So are you asking then, are you to review that policy and make revisions? I think that's their question.
Well, one of the board's primary functions is to set policy. As far as following up on making sure that advisories are done, then that would be something as the supervisor of the superintendent that you would be responsible for, but otherwise, the executive team are the ones who review those and then put them forward for you guys to either approve or not approve.
Well, can we just give you a list of things that we sat down, the two of us, and we read them, and we know that there's some changes that need to go, and then maybe we can come back and make the changes at some other, workshop or something like that. But there are changes that need to be done in some of them. So whatever, if we say like BAA, okay, And then it says at the top of it, shall the board meet at least annually and no later than October 30th, for appraising, we don't even know if that date's a good date. You know what I'm saying? So,
And why that
and is it reflective of our, what do we have, areas of board operations? I think
So is it better that, so let me just interject, so is it better that this become an agenda item, an agenda item where you're asking for our policy book to be reviewed, and then you just throw everything you want? I think it's best as an agenda item.
The board agenda, we're in the process of doing a full manual update through the Arizona School Boards Association's policy services.
She's happening.
And there's also 3 sets of policy advisories that are outstanding that we're working on getting those to you. So even if you went through those right now, item by item, the chances are that at least half of those are all going to be revised anyways based off of those advisories and the review that we're doing with ASBA.
Okay,
So
so then
that's like-
come back to
yeah.
my question. So if, when we get the ASBA policy advisories, and we see there's board, or any of them, is that when we as board members should be saying, hey, we need to make sure that this is getting checked, because we don't want it to be 2, 3, 5, 10 years that, we're dealing with outdated information now.
Yeah,
But also to make sure that our policies are aligned with our regulations and what we're doing.
each department is currently going through that. And I think to Ms. Powell's point is that we started that process last spring, I want to say it was. And we made all those changes, and then when ASB came in and they had their advisory changes and everything else, all that work was, that was hours and hours of work.
You made
And
those changes.
we made the changes to the revisions of our,
We're not something that came to you yet.
not
so
to
we're in the
you,
process.
it's the process of the ones. So we were getting them prepared to bring to board. And as we made the changes that we felt needed for this district, we got those ready, ASBA was coming in, we were making sure that they were aligned to ASBA, and then the time we got through all that, they were changed, everything
Did you know
changed.
that that was happening?
yes.
Yeah, we put
Yeah.
it in,
To an
Yeah.
extent, but you can never.
no, it was in our updates, we were working on policy revisions, or advisory
You can
revisions.
expect to have them coming based off of the legislative activity.
Yeah.
I trust that
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
anytime
we
we
did
change
that.
the law, then there's going to be a policy.
We went through, so much work, especially there's so many that changed in the instructional pieces, and we did them, and then here he comes, and we're like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, so we're in that process now. But that's when we would bring them to you and say, here's ASBA's, here's what we're recommending, and then it's your guys's.
Okay, now what
Comes
do
to
we,
board.
so the two of us, we went through and we looked at every board policy now, and there are some things that, we feel that should be changed on some of our board policies, but we don't know if ASBA sent
Right.
any, changes over there. So how are we gonna be able to work, some of our suggestions into, making sure that these things come? Because there's something in here about one of the things in here, it's really old, that should have been updated probably years ago, is just like vacancies. It's saying that we have 30 days and that we can, submit, 3 names to our county superintendent. That is outdated here, and that should have been done years ago, So I know that that's not updated, but I don't know that you have that.
But
So how are we?
ASBA's Policy Services has provided us with all of those legal, whether or not we've acted on that, during this process, that's all getting taken care of. But ASBA's policy manual is based off of whatever the legislative actions are, whether it's case law, attorney general opinions,
Right.
Revised statutes. I would say, if your question is ASBA giving us the right information, I would say yes.
No, that's not my question.
We are not, I know, the question is, it's not, ASBA is giving us the right information, and we have the right to make minor tweaks or whatever we need. The question is, the policy that's been adopted by the governing board is not the correct policies. They're not updated.
And then, but you said the executive teams, going over, are you going over the board ones and the board isn't having any, because like I said, there's a whole bunch of them in here that we feel that, need a little bit of tweaking.
When we started the process, as assistant super for ed services, I was doing all the instruction piece, Mike was doing all the finance piece, and then Barb was doing all the HR piece.
So board piece,
We as a board.
The board-
Do like a workship and start working on.
Mike,
Madam President, members of the board, so I think, so let me assure you that I think what you're asking is the reconciliation of what you believe should be changed compared to what's outdated. So just to give you an idea, someone from ASBA, Liz, we're in a room and we're literally going through every policy the district has. Where we have discussions on which ones have been outdated, which ones need to be modified and revised. To take it a step further, I have all my directors in the room with us. So as we get to a facilities or a food service or a transportation issue, hey, does that make sense for us? And if so, the whole idea would be that we're gonna make those revisions, however many there are, regardless of what department they fall under, and then take it to the board and then walk you through to reconcile what you believe has been outdated to the point that was made either by Liz or by the superintendent. I remember clearly having all my directors with Liz, with the individual from ASBA, and we spent like an entire Friday going through those. And then obviously then those become outdated because of the new guidance. And so I think what you're trying to get at is, yes, we're going to go through that process again, reconcile those, present those to the board when we get to that point, and then reconcile and update whatever procedures are no longer relevant to reflect current law or whatever it might be.
Okay, but these ones here are board level specific. I get it that you're talking about that and your department is doing that. That's why I'm asking, should we as a board, we go through and say, okay, we're seeing these are the updated ones and.
the executive team would probably, they come to executive team, we look at those, we compare those to what ASBA says, then we bring them on an agenda item to the governing board.
And
And
in
then
this
we
section
And then you-
specifically, it would be the superintendent and I would go through those and then make recommendations for you and then as part of your readings, whether those were meeting your needs or not.
Meeting the needs.
so we've already done the work.
But you don't have all the information.
Yeah.
So,
Right, but we have done the work and where we want some answers, from executive teams. So Brenda and I sit down with you, as a team and know, what we want or what our questions are.
I would recommend if you would just give us what you found, our team would sit down and we could look at any reconciliation that needs to be, and then we would bring them back to the entire governing board.
Two board members are not gonna tell the administrators how to change a policy, I think this route.
That's not what, no, we just wanted to say, look, these are things that we know that we know that these things need to be.
Outdated.
Yeah.
I think that's getting into the administrative policy, because we create the policy or we adopt the policy once the administrators have brought it to us. I think it's fair for you to give that to them and say, please consider these. I think that's fair.
No, I think I should be going to them and saying, hey, this is outdated. I'm like, it's a 30-day thing and
you
it's
give it to 'em.
but that's what we did. I'm like, we went through and we saw that, some things are outdated in here. That's exactly what we did.
I think we've recognized that that's an issue. And so I think you've heard the superintendent talk about how we're in that process of trying to revisit that so that everything is relevant with your approval. I mean, we'll make those suggestions regardless of what, we make those suggestions. And I think that aligns with the board norms of we will go through all those, reconcile whichever ones might be outdated, and make those recommendations according to the board, and then the board could say yes or no, or
And
there could be a tweak.
Yeah, and I would just say we truly are acting as quickly as we can, but they've been outdated for a long time, not just like since July 1.
I know.
I did what you did the
We
first time I got into
identified
office.
that too.
Not since July
I
1.
did the same thing you did, and the first time I went in, and I think I gave it to Liz, and some of them were, yeah, like, you are right, you two are absolutely correct. I did what you did, I went through all of them, it's like, but I think it's happening right here.
I
We're in
think
the
if any board
process.
member comes across a policy that they think is outdated or whatever, just bring it to to Mrs. Sagata Jones and let her decide.
Research it.
Yeah, needs to be
Bring
done.
back to us.
So
and
if you want to submit those to Cindy, then.
And if I have any questions, I'll reach out.
And then I'll add to the board members, I know exactly what you guys are talking about, looking at some of the other policies.
Just flip to it.
But also when I went online just to look, lots of the changes, I'm like, this needs wrong, this needs to be changed. It's in the updates already. There's lots of the changes maybe that you put in there could already have been updated.
They could have
We
been,
just-
but it's not board
Yeah,
approved.
we haven't adopted it.
We haven't adopted it, and that's
Just
from
out of
years.
curiosity, I mean, for our own sanity, because we were trying to find it. When you go on Policy Bridge, because I know, Liz, you have access.
Everyone has access.
Well.
Who's everyone?
Anyone can get on a policy bridge to get.
Yeah.
Well,
Not
wait,
to-
wait, hear what I'm going to ask though. All right, so ASBA does these policy updates. Do they have like a master, like here's generically all of the policies generically updated? Do they have like an ASBA policy manual?
That's what the review process is comparing our policies with their manual as they have decided it is.
So is
So-
that online, on Policy
No,
Bridge?
that is
Okay.
something that
That's the
they
paid
don't
service.
have it online as like, if, there's supposed to be a national one, but if they did, then they wouldn't have policy services because that's, how they make their money.
I was looking at another school district that I thought would probably have it, and I saw that the language had been changed, so that's how I knew
But,
there had
but,
been changes.
but then we also understand too that, okay, here's ASBA's policy update. It's very generic. And then you go into other
Right.
districts and you see they've, really beefed it up, or,
Right.
yeah. it's
And we
like-
have a lot of
yeah.
policies like that.
Yeah.
We've updated a lot of policies over the years, not because of what ASBA has asked us to do, but because of what practices are and what legal has decided that we needed to work on, so.
Okay.
I do want to, in this one, if you could take a look at BHC, which is Board Communications. And I think we need to kind of review both those, BHC and then BHD as well. So that would be Board Communications with staff members and Board Communications with the public. And just have to kind of remember what our protocol is here.
Well, and that was one we wrote notes on.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, to, incorporating, following chain of command and getting people in contact with the correct person first, closest to the problem.
Well, I think actually, it should probably all communications need to go through the superintendent first.
No, but sometimes you do have a staff member that will reach out to you and have a question about something, and
Well, I think, yeah, that's if a staff
Yeah,
member is
staff
reaching out to you.
member,
I think what the question is, for example, if you have a question about the operation of the district, or whether it's in ed services or finance or HR, that those questions would come to the superintendent, and I would filter them down to the correct people.
So you're going to have a problem. I'll give you an example. It's whatever, last week or the week before, I texted Mike and I said, hey, there's people on the playground at Horizon, but I didn't text you. I mean, is that a problem?
He texts me and let
Well, I
me
know
know.
he did let you, yeah, he told me he let you
Yeah, he
know.
lets me know, so.
Do you still want to go to you
Yeah,
first?
I would just think, because you are, I am the 24/7 person, I'm being paid the higher amount of money, you let me know, and then I either answer it, or I, seek the person to it, I think would be fair. I would, that's what you hired me to do, is I should be the one that probably does those things. If I can answer the question, I'll answer the question. It'd probably be easiest to do.
but in like my role when I volunteer in some of the classes with certain programs, I mean, we're not talking about, I have to report to you when I talk to them about making sure we got funding for something.
Like, give me an example. I'm not
Like
following
a-
you.
Like a lead with, like Sunset Vista, talking to the achievement advisor that I volunteered last year, and she's asking if I'm going to be there again this year, and I know more about the logistics of it, and so there was conversation about making sure our teams were registered and how we would do things, and.
Your microphone's not on.
Oh, this one?
So, do you,
Saying, hey, we have a governing board member teaching a class. I'm just making something
okay.
up like that.
I'll be Sunset Vista and Landmark. I don't know
Yeah,
who
and I know,
else yet.
and typically we know that because you've already communicated to me that.
Right. Yeah, we just haven't started yet. So,
And then the board communications with the public too, that, just remember that any community member that comes to you with a concern should be directed to the superintendent, and that they can always do a call to the public. So you might want to read through that too. So that's then the self-evaluation pilot results.
So by the way, so those are your two policies, and it doesn't say share with the superintendent. You know, so those are like little changes, those are the type of things that we.
Or those are just practices, they become part of our practice.
No, but that was something that we can easily beef up our own policy and incorporate it, because then that becomes our way of life, yeah.
All right, so do we want to, it is almost 6 o'clock, do we want to continue with the self-evaluation? I don't know how much in-depth you want to get into, or do you want to save it for another time? And did you, how, because we're already missing a board member.
Well, I went through and I circled whatever, like a few things that I thought we could discuss, and then I think that's how you could like come up with board goals, you know. So I don't know, you tell me about your time. I mean, when else are we gonna do it?
So your hopes were to go through the board self-evaluation and come up with board goals?
To have discussion on
ones we've already
the,
adopted?
the ones that really scored not so good. At least to get clarification and understanding, so it may have been just something that we didn't understand and mark them the way they were marked.
Huh? I'm sorry.
Okay, go to question number 8. Okay, so she's
Wait a
saying
minute, question number what?
8, so it's under standard 1, conduct and ethics. Okay, so question number 8 says carry out an annual assessment of its performance. So
We've never done it.
it says, it says to what extent, does our board carry out our annual assessment,
6
of
of
its,
27.
of its performance. Okay, so look, you have 2 people says some of the time, and then 3 people said never, and 1 person says, don't know. I mean, obviously that's something, that should be a goal, like that you should do an assessment. But you also want to clarify, who doesn't know? Or what does it mean by some of the time that we have assessment of our performance? I mean, to me, I would think, I'm pretty sure that I would have answered
Never.
3, never. But I don't remember what I answered.
Because we have it in policy to do a board self-evaluation, but we never have, that I've been on. So, that could be a goal. That we actually do a board self, not only because, we don't do it, but we have policy that says we should be doing it.
Doesn't policy say by November 1st of every year?
October 30th.
October 30th?
Yeah.
It's by then.
And there's actually an instrument in there also.
I saw the instrument, yeah.
Yeah, well, we think that should just be trashed.
It might be something we can, it could be a jumping board to take a look at and then tweak it. But it seems like it's pretty cut and dry, actually. We could look at other ones too. We could look at other board evaluations if that's what you want to do. And
Let's put together a whole bunch of other, I think, self-evaluations and given them to us, and it's gone nowhere. So to me, like, I don't know, I thought this was actually pretty decent. Like when you go through it and you look at it, it's like, okay, what can our goal be? It could be, doing the assessment. I don't know why I'm looking at hers, and because it's right there. But and then you could just say, and then I went to what questions, whatever. There were 4 different areas, and it was, what was it? It was conduct, structure, accountability, and advocacy. And then, so whatever. So accountability, which I saw that we had, really low scores. So that was questions 52, 53, and 54. So to me, that 52, it says, follow a schedule for timely review of the district strategic plan. Okay, so, I mean, I saw that, all right, 3 of us said we never do that, someone said most of the time, and, and so to me, it's like, okay, that should have been a goal. I mean, so then we could say, all right, Cindy, right now, we've asked her to, come up with these, goals and come back to us, these strategic goals, and that they should be coming back. And so do we follow it? Did we set that, as a goal as a board? So, I mean.
Well, and this one's talking about the strategic plan, which is more of that other document that was here.
Right,
Yeah.
so we need to come up, do we agree, so we should be discussing, what is the strategic plan? What do we want to come back? Are we talking about our strategic goals? Are we talking about the strategic plan? What exactly? Because it's all confusing. This word is this and this word is that. And it says, I mean, there's your biggest, biggest black area was number 53. It says, ensure a high degree of coherence between the district strategic plan and the school improvement plans. And so right there, we know that the board doesn't really know if that happens.
What doesn't happen?
Is there coherence between the district strategic plan and the school improvement plan? So, I mean, we saw right there that,
Keep in mind, this was prior.
Uh-huh.
But like, today, we're discussing goals, and we're also looking at this document, so we are seeing the connection between the two, whereas in the past, we weren't.
Well, we can provide a board update on that because the district strategic plan obviously needs to be reviewed because it's in
Final
its
year,
last year,
yeah.
and we can call that. But the school improvement, there are no more school improvement plans. That's outdated language. And so we make sure through, that lies through title, through educational services, and it impacts HR and the other departments, and that we have to make sure that each school has their plan. We'll use the term plan, that's not what, and then the district has, it's submitted as a district, and then we can make sure, and of course, the district always makes sure that it's aligned to the district goals.
Right.
So we can provide those things to you. Those things have always taken place because we have to do that for title. But I don't know that it's been communicated. I know it's been in my updates that we've given you that all schools have submitted, because I've told you I've reviewed them and those types of things. So we can just make sure that if you want to refer to question 53, ASBA self-evaluation, ensure high degree, this is what it is. But this has been done. It's been shared with you in board updates. It hasn't used the term probably district strategic plan, and it hasn't used school improvement plan because those are not, school improvement plans are not in existence.
So, then if we look at it, so then, what, board goals, maybe it's for us to understand school plans, improvement plans, or, as you clump them together, like there's just one goal for accountability, maybe in the strategic, goals, is that the board will better understand, these plans that we don't understand. I mean, it's obvious that the board does not understand this.
And I think sometimes with this kind of stuff, doing it at our public meetings, even if it's every couple months, it helps because then we have questions and we have the opportunity to ask them. We may or may not ask them if it's an important update.
Yeah, you could do a review of the strategic plan and all the, according to the verbiage, I'll just use the verbiage here, school improvement plans are aligned to the district strategic plan. Because that goes through a review process. I would just be concerned as a board, is it occurring? And here is the district plan and all school plans are aligned to it. I mean, I think when you're getting down into schools, you're getting into the weeds.
Yeah, we don't want to know that, but we do want to make
The
sure
process,
that
that it's occurring.
that it's occurring.
We wouldn't, yeah, it occurs, and we'll just better articulate that. You wouldn't receive Title I funding if it didn't occur.
Right.
And see, that's what you don't know, where
Right.
that takes place at.
Yeah.
So we need to better communicate that to you.
But I think also too, at our level, this is, however this evolves, when we go through and redo it, that we're seeing that on a regular basis, because I think you guys are seeing it, but as far as we're concerned, it's, that invisible book on the shelf. It's talked about, we hear about it, we know it exists.
We saw it once.
Yeah. But, if we see it over and over again, that means our community's going to know more, because we do know that some people do watch our meetings. But it makes it real for us too, so that when we are talking about that, it's like, we do have this and we do know this is happening because we know what this is and we are seeing everything that's connected with it when we make decisions.
So then a board goal could be to know what the strategic, what would you guys,
Regularly visiting that.
something like that. And then, or is our strategic goals regularly visited could be our board goal. And then when we come back to self-evaluate, did we do anything in our agendas to, discuss any of, review or any of it, because we obviously need to grow in that and understanding the goals of the district.
That would be board specific, not district, not anybody else.
Yeah.
It's just us as a board.
So I'm not, I don't know if I'm understanding that you want to go through these and create board goals?
Yeah, we should create
Or
board
do you
goals.
want, we have to have a self-evaluation by October 30th, correct? Because this is a little
This is-
This is an
outdated.
evaluation.
This is a self-evaluation.
It was a pilot.
Yeah, but it was, honestly, this is the first self-evaluation really that we've done, and we're actually,
I know, and I wasn't real pleased with it, so, I did it because I wanted to see what it was, and I wasn't quite sure if that was something that we wanted to go with, so I thought, well, it was offered to us for free.
Right.
So I thought, yeah, okay, but I'm not so sure it's something that we really want to look at and use. For me, it's a little more detailed than I would think a board evaluation should be. But my suggestion is we can look at this and we can set a date on our future meetings for Liz to bring us some self-evaluations, and then we can use this one too. We can go through it, we can go through it ahead of time. Then, we can take a look at it and develop a plan and do our self-evaluation by October 30th.
so you're saying don't develop board goals based on information we have here? Then how do we grow from that?
Well, if you take a look at the one that's in I know you don't like the one that's in there, but there's a lot more to self-evaluation than on board goals.
All right, explain that.
Well, did you look at the one that's in there?
No, but what is different from that one versus, because to me, this one broke it down into standards. So, if we saw that we're kind of hard hit in the accountability area, we could develop a goal for us 5 that we address so we can improve. One way is knowing what our strategic plan is. Because we're not clear on that, but that is a goal, so we understand what it is that we're trying to do as a district.
Well, this is quite lengthy, and you're asking for us to go through each one and then create.
No. To me, you go for the ones that are the biggest black and red zones. You don't go through every single one. So here, the accountability area had a lot of black and red in it.
Well, accountability is student achievement.
And we want to see student achievement
Yeah,
improve.
so-
We need to know our goals, and to me,
Well, I thought originally the goal was, back to when we were talking about what your goals were going to be, that was going to be encompassing was increasing student achievement.
right,
So when look through this, I look for, when I see pockets of student achievement, I see it through the accountability piece. So some of the components of it. So if that is your goal, then you would look to see if any of these, what they're calling to what extent it's done, is occurring. And then you're asking to rewrite that goal?
No, 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 no. No, that's completely separate. What I'm saying is there are 5 board members sitting up there. This area for us 5 people, had a lot of black and red. You know, and a lot of it is, you know, geared around, you know, the district strategic plan and our awareness of it. So for us, the 5 of us, a goal could be just for us, for our benefit, to make us better, is that we become more aware of this and what's in it because we regularly see it at our board meetings. Has nothing to do with any of the other goals that we talked about today. This is just to improve us, to make us better as boardsmen, so that we're doing a better job in the district for everything else.
Because in conduct, well, you know, there was, I think it was, I don't remember what number, it's either 28, 26 or somewhere in there, or maybe it's vision, I don't know what it is. It says collaboration of goals was low also. And so when you look at it, now we know that we don't understand the strategic goals and the collaboration. And so, you know, then our goal would be like, we're going to sit down with the superintendent and we are going to, you know, set a date to, you know, collaborate on strategic and district, you know, just district goals and things like that. Then we're going to come back and then we would evaluate ourselves and say, you know, did we do that? And we're going to be, yeah, we sat down and we did this workshop, you know, with you and the executive team. You know, that's why, you know, going through that, I thought, oh, it's fine.
So perhaps instead of, I know, because we keep throwing around goals and everything, is it after you do this self-evaluation, you're really looking at areas to focus on as a board for better governance?
Yes.
So you would just
Yes.
call areas of focus, and then you would go back through, if we need to pay more attention to or focus on strategic plan, then you're going to commit to that
Yes,
as the governing board.
yes.
Well, there's a lot of, there's like 72 of these.
Yeah, but just like we do for a district, you pick like 2 or 3, the ones that have the really, really bad outcomes. Because clearly there's either some confusion on any one of us part, you know, whether it's language, whether it's frequency, you know.
Okay, my concern is that I was not aware that that was one of something that you wanted to do, that you wanted to look at this to create goals, or however you want to say it, in order for us to evaluate next time. I thought we were just going to just go over and take a quick look at where our weaknesses were.
Yeah, but that's what you should do when you
I know,
evaluate.
but I'm saying that what you're asking to do is going to require a little more in-depth. I mean, I would have to really go back and take a look more at it. And Monica might also, and Jamie's not here. So I think to look at it in that respect, I'm going to need a little more time. I can't just sit here and say, oh, I see a black area, and do I think that's important or not? I don't know yet. I don't know.
Right.
I've got to think about it. I've got to look at it. So that's why I'm saying, you know, maybe we want to come back to this. Because I don't think tonight is, if that's what you want to do from this, I don't think tonight is the time, is going to give us the time
Right.
to do that. I thought we were just going to go over it and say, oh, you know, this is what this particular
Document.
self-evaluation gave us, and did we or not, and because there was some question as to exactly what it was telling us, you know, and wasn't quite sure if, you know, this was something we wanted to really use. So my suggestion is to let the board know that this is what we want out of this, is to create some kind of goal or you know, however verbiage you want to use, in order to do a self-evaluation in order to, grade us on a self-evaluation next time.
So,
And we have to set goals for ourselves. Like, why would we not set goals
No,
for
and I'm not
ourselves
saying we
and
should,
then
I'm
not,
just
you
saying
know?
I'm not prepared at
I know,
this
I
time to
know.
go through this and do that.
okay, so then, may I ask, do you want us to then really look at this as two different aspects? So one would be to look at this and compare it to what we have as an exhibit in our policy right now, which if we did do an evaluation, that's what we would have used, to see what we like, don't like. One, to start out with a comparison that way in that respect, and then two, have a discussion. So if nothing else, we can sit down and have a conversation and figure out where we can grow and actually do that for ourselves, actually set goals for ourselves to better ourselves as a governing board.
I would need to, really look at it again. I glanced over it, to tell you the truth, but I didn't really look at it. And now that I am, it's a big one. I mean, it really does go into the weeds a lot. So I'm not sure if that's one that I would want to use. I don't know.
Well, it does, but if you're trying to find, 2 or 3 areas to improve, it really can focus. And we found one in the accountability, just that one aspect,
Well, I think maybe for the first time, maybe to create goals, maybe we can use this one, and in the meantime, we can take a look at some other self-evaluations for the next time. But I'm not sure I want to adopt this one.
Right. So then it would be 2 different elements. Then one would be to look at what we currently have, looking at this one. What do we
Or
like,
others.
not like? And see, because you do have to have a starting point. If you're going to look for something else, you got to know what it is that you do want versus what you don't want. Otherwise, we'll be doing the same thing we did years ago, where we had a ton of possibilities and
So our self-evaluation, we should do a self-evaluation and we should use this. And we should go through this and take a look at where our weaknesses are, and then we can create goals from that. Use this for this time as a self-evaluation.
this one. I think we
And
should.
at that time, then we can sit down and we can really talk about where our weaknesses are and then create goals from that for the next time. But I'm not prepared to create goals right now out of these. Out of this. I'm not speaking for me. It's up to you too.
This is a lot of information.
It is a lot
And I
of
think that it would benefit us if we had a couple hours just for this. Because we've gone through a lot of stuff today. And I reviewed it as well. I didn't get as in-depth into it as you guys did, and I understand what you want to do, and I agree, but I don't know that today's the exact day to do it.
Perhaps we need to set a timeline because October 31st is going to be here very quickly.
Quick.
And you're going to have to do another self-evaluation. And
We have our future meetings that we have to come back to on our agenda.
so,
We can
and then if we're not going to agree to use ASBA self-evaluation, then we need to bring others back immediately so that can be determine which evaluation instrument you want to do. And then,
Well, I think we just decided that we want to use that one.
so we
think
want
we
to
should
use
use
this.
So
this
we
one
need
this
to, like, whatever, suspend the current policy that we have and say that we're going to use this one for now, for this upcoming
This
year.
one.
Yeah.
That instrument or those results?
Yeah, that's what I'm,
results,
Yeah.
The results.
right? You want to use
Well,
the results?
I don't know, what's the difference? What's the difference between results and instrument?
Well, instrument, we'd have to do it again.
because by October 31st, you have to have, when was this done?
Like a year and a half ago.
Well, then you're out of
Yeah.
compliance.
And it has to be done.
It has to be done again. You can't use this one because you have to do it annually. And
Has it
so,
been that long?
Yeah,
It's been like a year.
It's been a while.
But yeah, it's been, when we were
so in order to be in compliance for this year, you would have to do another self-evaluation and determine, is this what you're going to do again this year? That you retake this instrument, use this instrument and retake the self-evaluation.
Well, we can't, can we?
Not for free.
No, not for free, we'd have to pay for it. So, why?
Well, you can't get the data, though, that's the thing. That's why there's a cost to it, is that correct?
But
Is
they
it-
have to, they have to do the evaluation in public. They can't, I don't know how they're doing it online.
So we have 90 days.
Or
We have
self-evaluation has to
90
be done
days
during
to
the
do
meeting in
something.
public. So
Right, but you just said that we'd have to pay for it.
if we had them do it,
You mean,
Raise our hands over here.
you mean if you had someone come in and have them go through it with
but I
them?
mean, the
Okay,
questions are all listed right there. You could,
yeah. I thought did you send,
this is-
so then when you did, they came in and then you sent this off and they did the
this all
data?
online for the pilot.
Okay, so they did it
Individually, the
online.
information was submitted, but collectively, we have that discussion in public.
No, I'm just talking about how this data was gathered. And how did it, and who calculated the percentage?
Surveys.
Say that, okay,
yeah.
that's all came from.
Okay, so,
If we're not,
so if we're going to use this, and we're not
going to pay for it, somebody's
going to do all that,
going to compile the results.
that's what I'm saying.
So we just
Still have to do it in public.
No, I
get the pub,
piece, I'm just saying, you can sit down
and do it, but somebody's going to have to paper pencil tally the results on all 72 items from all 5 people if you're not going, if it's not going to be paid for, yeah.
I was just wondering whether there were 6 people who took it.
That's what I was wondering.
Because it's
Well,
5
that's
board
another
members
thing,
plus
too.
the
It was-
superintendent.
It was Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
But there are some that were not answered by all 6 people, so it's,
Yeah, but that's going to happen in any survey that you do. You always have somebody that will or won't answer what
Why
they
did the
will or won't answer.
superintendent take it?
It's their, that's how ASBA runs it.
well, so your suggestion, Liz, is to,
Oh, Liz, put it on the spot, have
Well, I
fun.
mean, if you want to use those same questions,
Uh-huh.
I can create a form for you guys to fill out that you could use, I mean,
and we do it ahead of time, and then,
right. You could do it ahead of time and bring it in, and then you guys could discuss, you know, you
At-
could compile the results together in public.
Survey Monkey
Yeah.
so kind of like we used to do, is
Survey.
deliver, make sure you have it ahead of time.
or Excel, Google, any of those.
Where's our old one?
Yeah.
And then, because somebody has to go through the data
You
piece
could
of
use
it.
Google Forms.
You could use
whatever.
Google form, you'd go in and do that, we'd have the results.
Right.
What's the letter for our self-evaluation policy?
Oh, wait.
BA, isn't it? Or BAAE,
BAAE,
-E.
dash E, isn't it?
Yeah, where was that in
This
here?
is like the second.
Right at the beginning.
Second policy in the manual.
No, it's the next page.
Okay.
BAA.
Is it the right one,
That's-
self-evaluation?
Yeah, that's the policy, and then there's no instrument, it's
For the
BAA.
annual BAAE.
Any questions?
Are these?
Don't they have to approve it first before they can use it?
We would just have to use, if we were gonna use a different instrument, we would have to suspend the policy.
Is that what you did for this one, the pilot, or it was
Three,
just a
but
pilot?
Your last 2 are really
Oh,
open.
okay. So that's the other thing. So then we would have to go in,
That's thorough.
suspend this policy for this year so they could use another one.
Unless they wanted to change the regulations, we could do that too. I mean,
I don't think this one's so bad. I don't think this one is so bad.
create our own instrument, it would be impossible.
I guess throw a little, like, if some of it has to be public. Can we really do that? Isn't this copyrighted?
Yeah, that's my question. A little notes.
I don't know.
I don't think you can.
Yeah,
You're
it is,
probably right.
it is
one's
copyrighted.
Why they pay for it?
That's why they pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
So this,
So we can't use that.
this is what
We
was
can
used
use
in the
this,
past?
but we can't use.
No, that's just it.
That's just what's in policy.
Yeah.
This is what's in policy.
Yeah, we can't use the as
It's
the
also
one.
copyrighted though. So,
But if it's in policy, we can use it.
Not
we
if it's
have to.
copyrighted.
But it is what, this is their copyright for their, that's what ASBA is copyrighted for, their self-evaluation.
Their self-evaluation is, if, that's different, because all their policies and that are copyrighted. That's how we tell the difference if they're theirs or ours, but this instrument, I don't know where it came from. I mean, it's theirs, but, yeah,
Yeah.
so,
We got 90 days.
I mean, if you know a school district that you know is doing the self-evaluation regularly, that you could use as a jumping off point, and those are all online. They start that, it's online, so.
I know Cartwright does one on an annual, I mean, they do one regularly, because I see it in the,
I can find out.
well, I see it in their, on their agendas. But,
but we'd have to contact ASBA because those are my
What
concerns.
happens if we don't have it done by October 30th?
We're in non-compliance like we have been for years.
We will continue to be out of compliance.
You don't want to just use this one for now?
If you click through it, then you can make changes to it for next year.
You could add and take away, tweak it.
Fine, we'll go through our current one that's in policy. Just be prepared for a whole bunch of. We went through it one time, and you know that we didn't like it. I think you were on the board at the time, and I think we all went through it and decided, this is just a piece of whatever. And we said, we're not even gonna do this thing because it doesn't help us at all. You know, but maybe you have better understanding of being a board member. I haven't, so I haven't looked at
Did you
it.
bring us some other ones at one point?
She did.
Most of the ones I've been up with the superintendent.
Yeah.
I can look up board ones for you though. I mean, it's all on ASBA.
Take some of this,
Yeah,
Wow.
you know.
because some of it I would,
25%,
yes. Some of it I wouldn't use.
Yeah.
I
put
mean,
it in the other one.
I could see where there's a problem. I
Well,
I
and-
get that.
And I know when we went through the session, because it was Denver when we saw this originally, and it was just that sample piece of it. I did reach out to other board members throughout Arizona to say, hey, what kind of, self-evaluation are you guys using? And to me, they were so flimsy. I mean, it would give us as a board nothing to really grow with versus what we got out of the sessions with regards to this other evaluation. It gave us some stuff that we could actually identify, hey, this is an area that we need to improve to make ourselves be better in the governance role. And whereas the other ones that I was seeing from other districts were just, yeah, did we, vote in support of kids? Like, really, that's,
You've been to a lot of sessions though with ASBA and SBA on board self-evaluation. Did none of them share their instrument?
no, because it's proprietary. I mean, we've seen this one actually come up a couple times in different sessions because it's Washington, and then they're working with another state too. And so we've seen those separate independent ones, and they're talking about, you've got to get into that level as a board to understand, okay, if we don't improve here, we're part of why we can't grow there as a district. And it really was to, help us to look a little deeper at ourselves as a cohort.
But we're gonna have to determine whether we can use this or not as a second-year pilot, perhaps. So we could ask permission for that, if possible.
To use it without having their
Use it
services?
without using their services, if possible, to do that as a second year, because you have a new superintendent.
Right,
That may how we get around it.
right.
And then if that's a yes, we could determine yes or no. If that's a no, then you can revert back to what's in policy, what's probably what we should be doing because what's in policy, but if it's not a good instrument, then why go through it? And then we could quickly look to see what other districts are doing or across the nation. If there's one out there that we could use that's not a copyright, we could quickly bring that back and determine if that's what you want to use.
Or at the end of this one that's in policy, at number 2 says, list any weaknesses you have observed in the operation of the school system, or we could make a number 4 and list any weaknesses in the board that needs to be evaluated. You could throw in some of those for the next time. Like, we need to know, there needs to be more of an understanding of the strategic plan, or, you know, something to that effect. So you can take a look at where our weaknesses are in that one and place them at the end of this evaluation, so that we have it on the next one.
Did anybody crosswalk this evaluation to what's in here?
No.
No.
Why don't I crosswalk it to see if it's just, and I think Sarah makes a good point. Maybe I just didn't know what I was supposed to do as a board member when I took it, whenever she took it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that either. I didn't look at this one I just skimmed over them. But if I crosswalk it and see where there's some concern, where at least we could say, we could tweak it, then we would be able to do that. And then some of them could be redundancy I think some of them even in this ASBA have you as redundancy. We could remove those and do it that way, as long as we have permission to use ASBA.
Well, if you crosswalked and came up with like a hybrid, then that would be.
Your own.
It's just not, it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah, we can,
And the policy can be, it's an exhibit, so it can be changed. We don't have to go through the
Right.
reading process.
so that's an easy way, if I just crosswalk through,
It's not the same question.
It's up to you.
so that's an option, crosswalk, or see if ASBA will let us use this a second year as a pilot.
Just the questions, not their system.
Just the questions, not the system. Those would be 2 options you would have. Or look for a brand new instrument. What would you-
I say crosswalk. Then we can set the date for when we want to.
I just don't think you're going to be finding that much.
That are similar. I didn't crosswalk them, I couldn't tell you that. So,
I don't know.
We have your goal progress report in October 18th.
There's not goals. That's just on there, just to keep it on the calendar.
Does that automatically go off at a certain time?
I was trying to make it so cold, then I turn on the heater. No good deed goes unpunished.
It's great when this site's heating and that site's cold.
Yeah.
All I know is it feels really good right now.
I know, I'm thawing out here. Were you saying it was not here cold-wise?
No,
Oh.
it warmed up a few minutes ago.
All right. So what do you want to do?
I think the first step is just see if we can just use the instrument.
see if we can use instrument
Okay.
again as a pilot.
Yeah, just see if we can do it and just,
Actually, do it all the way at that time, yeah.
Can we go ahead on with getting it on the future meetings? Set a date, though?
When we take it, when you want to
Take
take it.
September. So if we want to be done by
October
30th, right, of October, then maybe September that we do it. And I think the other argument we can make with ASBA to have a second pilot attempt is because there was so much confusion about us getting to do this much of it free in the first place, and it delayed everything for us. So that may actually kind of work in our favor.
Okay, well,
We can check to see.
Yeah.
are we willing to just pay just to get the report and just have it so someone like Liz doesn't have to, you know, I mean, that's really worth a lot of time, you know, say for whoever is going to be doing it.
I don't know what the cost is.
It was, I think if we just got the report or whatever somewhere, I think it was a couple,
$1,500?
yes.
I think it was 200.
I thought it was 200.
Yeah, that's
For
what
some
we're
reason,
thinking,
too.
so.
There was something for 100, I thought, and something for 200.
Too much.
Just for the data.
Happy to donate.
The sampled.
Yeah, it's in the board budget.
Happy to donate that, $200.
I think if we just do it that way, it'd just be a lot easier, you know,
Yes.
at this point, and save the time
And then
and the,
we got that, and then if we see that the results are good, whatever the results come out to be, and we think that the questions are valid questions, and we want to move forward, then
Okay.
I guess we could move forward that way.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and pay and use this one, right?
so then
Then do we need to
suspend.
vote on anything to change?
Follow up with them,
Okay.
because I think that,
Make sure it didn't go up?
well, no, I think if I'm remembering right now, it's kind of coming back to me, it was for a 2-hour session or a 4-hour session.
Oh, yes,
Maybe
you're
that's-
right, yeah.
But we don't want the session.
No,
Huh?
we don't want their session.
Right, no, I know, but I don't think that, I think that the data wasn't in that, and that was where all the confusion back and forth started going in.
With the
Well, there still was a fee, so you got a sample
Right.
level of information, which was free.
But I'd want to check, I'd want to confirm with them what
Yeah.
that's something that's available and what that costs to somebody. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
they
All right,
were kind of back and forth about it to begin with, so.
But yeah, hopefully if we can, you know, do it, start the process in September, that first meeting, you know, or in that time period, so we've got that information back so that in October we can actually do the,
well, why
through
don't we shoot for the second meeting in September? We have the annual financial report. That's what this says.
Those dates keep getting,
well,
Because what was of our.
I think I saw a tear in his eye.
Me too.
because we do the evaluation online.
Yeah.
If the turnaround is fast enough, we could start that evaluation discussion in that second meeting in September.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay, so hear that, Liz, we want to do it, if we could do it in the beginning of September to actually do it and ask them what their turnaround time would be. If we did in the beginning of September, could we actually have our results and be able to talk by the end of September?
So you want to do the pilot, the questions at the beginning of September and then have the data.
Have the data
On the-
for that second meeting.
September 27th, we could put down tentatively the board self-evaluation. Okay. All right, any other future meetings, any events?
I still feel like agenda items to come back, which hasn't come back. I still want to go over our, like what's on the consent agenda and what's not at
Oh,
some
review the
point.
consent
Yeah.
agenda?
And so we can decide, you know, what should be consent and what shouldn't be, and, you know, as a board, and then that way we could have more, you know, on consent probably, and then, instead of action items.
Oh, we
Like-
decided on that.
No, we talked about it in our one workshop about bringing that back because we acknowledge that we've done that where we're like looking at, well, why is this over here on consent agenda? You know, why isn't it over here in action item? And then the next time it's like, why is this on action item? Why isn't it over on a, you know, consent agenda? So, you know, like our insurance benefits.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, the stuff like that, you know, just to go through that list and see, okay, realistically, what can we simplify and put over here? And we acknowledge it's going to be over here.
Okay.
And what
So you
goes
want
over
to do
here.
that, is September 13th, the first regular meeting in September, okay with that?
Sure.
Because, okay, so we'll have a review of the consent agenda,
So you want that to be a study session, or you just want that to be an action item
just a discussion.
or discussion item?
Mike, you got a list to make? This is usually your stuff.
Yeah, I got a problem on this.
somehow that's a recurring theme.
All right, anything else? Nope, okay. Summary of current events. This is what I
I feel like I'm tired and you made me stay long.
I have a list that has 92 things, and you're going to sit through it.
I have 3 kids and 3 dogs at home. I'm good here.
Summary of,
I got you beat.
summary of current
I've got
events.
4 kids and a dog and a cat. Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was looking forward to 1 and 1 there before Christmas.
Summary of current events. I just wanted to, you did approve the travel tonight for Valerie Caraveo. She received the Emerging School Business Leadership Scholarship for over $2,000. So that's an award that she had received, so I wanted to share that out. So that was great. And then just the current events, you know that school starts. We have new teachers here this week. All the training is taking place and working through that. We have teachers that are from abroad, and Debbie and her team have been working really hard to get them all the certification and things that they need going on. Trainings are beginning for new teachers. Next week, everything is planned for returning teachers at their sites. They'll be at their sites for their, to begin preparing for the school year. And then just a reminder, 2 things coming up. Saturday is Stuff the Bus. And also, then we will have our welcome back event at Grand Canyon University on Thursday. And we've been working hard to get ready for that. So we're excited about that happening. So those are just a couple of things that's been going on.
Okay, good. Ms. Smith?
Well, it was interesting today, he talked about, them getting our new teachers ready, so Brian Richmond took us over to our teachers from Colombia and Peru. And so they were sitting there right there at the table, at the luncheon, getting, the one of them, his social security number, so, and then one of the other, the principal at Smith, had told me about how she was at the airport picking up the other teacher that came in from, I guess, Ecuador, that's really from India. But, and I just thought, it's really going. And then Cindy had talked about how it's GESD family, and those are things, that, a family, would do to help them. And I just really think that, going above and beyond like that is really, commendable of the staff that's working here. And, and I've been going to all the luncheons and speaking with, a lot of the new teachers, and they've really appreciated, all the hard work from all of you, so thanks.
It's been a very good group of new teachers, and they are so appreciative, and maybe I'm in a different role, I don't know, but they just come up to you, and they're just so grateful for everything, and the support, and that's really, really nice to see,
Yeah, so I met the director of Peter Piper Pizza, and I thought it was very nice of her to fight so that we could still, have that event there. And it's just amazing, the community that's helping also.
It is.
Sportel?
All right. To piggyback on the Stuff the Bus event, I would like to share a message I got earlier today that Patrick Kaiser from Kiwanis went to, kind of finalize things. And he sent me 2 pictures. One was a giant bin about 3/4 of the way full of just school supplies that have already been donated at that Walmart, along with the fact that our flyer for the Stuff the Bus event is posted at every single register in that store.
Wow.
He said that
choice.
he stopped by the, Walmart and they've got an early start. This bin is a 3x3x3 and is almost 3/4 of the way full. Every register has a flyer posted. So clearly, what's sad is that's a business partner that's not ours, benefiting from our community directly today, and unfortunately it was one within our community that chose to shut the door in our face.
That tax money's going to
Somewhere
fees,
else.
not
Yep.
here.
So I am excited to be there Saturday morning, and I'm sure it'll be nice and hot, and I've already volunteered and committed to going up and down the stairs on the bus to put everything in there. so.
Wheel shoots water in my face.
No, because it's going to get hot and sticky, no. So,
Ms. Pimentel?
I was able to attend the lunch today, and I was able to speak to some of the teachers and the new teachers, the new two GESD teachers, and some of our other teachers that have been here for a long time. And one teacher who taught here in Phoenix came from a different district, and she says this is the nicest group of people she's ever met, and she's really excited to start. So good choices, it looks like, and everybody seems really excited to start, and I'm excited to go next week as well, so I'll give Liz my official notice that I'm going in a minute. But it was a really great turnout today, and I look forward to seeing what they can do. It looks like we're still looking for a few music teachers. I was asked if I knew anything about music, and I said I can bop my head back and forth, and that's about it. Can't sing,
Don't
can't
look at
play an
me, I'm
instrument.
retired.
And you can't work in this district either.
and be on the board.
I have something else going on Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't go to the Step the Bus. And I have something else going on during the law conference, which I really enjoyed last year. So I can't go to that either, but I think that's all I have.
All right, well, I was sorry that I missed the teacher breakfast. I had problems at home. My refrigerator went out. But I just wanted to welcome all the new teachers, new staff. I did run into a couple of people that I worked with before, I taught with before, that are teaching now in this district. And the schools that they're at, they're just so happy with their principal and the other teachers that they'll be working with, and so that was nice to hear. Other than that, just looking forward to upcoming first day of school and our back to our welcoming celebration at Grand Canyon. Does anyone else have anything else to? Okay.
Welcome to the GESD family.
That's
Yes.
right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Oh, my goodness.